Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
After last weekend's shenanigans and playing around in the wet weather as Japan descends into monsoon season, we make our venture back here for the Open Series. Ladies and gentlemen, Premier Endurance League and the Open Series number 2. Welcome back to Twin Ring Motegi, better known these days as Mobility Resort Motegi. And whilst the oval might be visible up and over the racetrack, it's no longer in operation after earthquakes unfortunately unsettled the pavement and made it unusable. This is the Tochichi Prefecture in Japan. The Tochigi Prefecture in Japan for this one. Again, doubling up after last week's limited series race, which actually saw a pretty significant challenge on the drivers and a challenge on the conditions. And Pete, a celebration in Australian motorsport today. Are we going to see a controversial race as what we saw on the supercars today?
Oh, well, hey, that's a big question, Scotty. Welcome back to Motegi. I know not your favourite track, but it's certainly up there in my list of tracks I really enjoy driving. You've pointed out where it is. Lovely track in Japan. It's got some beautiful straights. It's got some lovely corners as far as I'm concerned. A nice little S-bend, a couple of hairpins, and plenty to drive in. So if you want to talk us through, mate, I'll tell you where the wet spots are when you're finished.
Yeah, turn number 1 doubles back into turn number 2. 2 separate 90-degree corners placed exceptionally close together. 3 and 4 much the same, but a little bit slower down there at that end of the track. Nice sharp turn at turn 5. Then you've got nice flowing on the throttle from 6 all the way through to the slight braking zone at 7. Try and carry some speed through 8. Slower corner down at 9 and 180-degree hairpin down at 10. One of the narrower corners on the racetrack. That's where the alternate pit lane entry is too, just on the entry to turn 10. Down and underneath the bridge, down through 11 into 12 and 13. 12 and 13 can be really, really difficult with the puddles that are placed on the track as well. One of the slower corners on the track at 14 will bring us back down the start-finish straight. Of course, pit lane entry off of turn 12 before you even get to 13. And puddles on a section of racetrack that barely gets used or barely gets cleaned up will be a tricky point for everyone.
Yeah, Scotty, I did a bit of wet weather testing here, and this track holds a lot of water on the racing line. So turn 1 and 2 on that racing line, it's just, with a fair bit of rain, it's a layer of water. So it's good old go-kart type lines. Turn 3 and 4, similar thing. The S's, if you touch the curbs in the S's, you're gone. But one of the trickiest parts I found was actually turn 14 coming on the start line straight. That was a really, really difficult corner to get right, and a little bit of understeer cost a whole heap of lap time. So see how these guys go, because it's going to be a bit wet as far as I know tonight.
Well, potentially rain chance for the entirety of the race is basically increasing from the start right towards the back end. So definitely by the back end of the race, we are strongly expecting everyone to be on a wet tyre. This, however, is drivers' best opportunity to take a little bit of a look at the track conditions. And I can tell you it's very, very important that you get an opportunity to take a look at the track conditions. And there's a lot of drivers. Normally you see a little bit of a split. Some of them will jump out there for the warm-up. Have a look at the rain due to come in about half an hour from now. We'll get the first lick of it, but of course, remember there is a little bit of a gap between this here warm-up session and the start of the race session. Very short pacing lap here tonight as well, so not much of an opportunity to take a read. A lot of different drivers and teams taking a read on what the conditions actually look like at the moment. I'm seeing a mix of tyre types out there in this current session, and that will be a challenge as well for everyone else, is a mix of tyre types. Talk us a little bit about the strategy, because if you need those tyres to go a reasonable way into this race, and if they're the wrong tyre to start off on, you are going to be in for a world of hurt, because adjusting your strategy and on the fly, there's not a lot of room to do that tonight.
So, Scotty, you talked about rain being predicted at the 30-minute mark, and that's a really crucial time because we've got 55% fuel tanks tonight. And the way I worked it out is in dry, you've got 29 minutes of running. In wet, not because you burn much less fuel, but because your lap times are quite a bit slower, you get about 32 minutes of running. So essentially, on a damp track, we're going to get close to when that rain's expected. For me, is it worth taking the risk to start on dry tyres? It could be. It just depends on when that rain does come in, right? The track still has some standing water on it, and I'll tell you, dry tyres, and we saw this last week with the limited series, the dry tyres took a long time, probably 4 to 5 laps to really get some heat up. And the guys on wet tyres got a significant advantage in those first 5 laps. What do you do tonight? Oh, mate, I think you flip a coin. If you got a whole lot of, I guess if you're going to take a big risk, you start on slicks. For me, the safety start would be on wets. Run them, and that way, if the rain is a little bit early, you don't have to come straight in.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on that and see how that tends to go. But at least for here tonight, ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be a challenging one for everyone to consider. That right there is probably one of the biggest reasons. That curb has a pond of water over the top of it. That means it's going to be a challenging spot. Slick Tie is going to take one look at that and say, yeah, that'll be a no, thank you. Don't forget as well, iRacing Black Friday sales have come through. I actually renewed my membership this year. It's the first time I had money right at Black Friday sales, and all of that went into the next 2 years worth of my membership. So I can tell you I am all the way topped off, 25% off renewals, and 50% off new memberships right the way through to December 2nd. Guess what? That's only a couple of days away. You've got yourself 2 days to get that membership renewed if there's room in the budget.
No, absolutely, Scotty. And remember, you don't have to have a subscription renewal right now to do that. You can make your renewal payment and get that saving. And then, for me, my renewal is actually April next year, and so it doesn't kick in. iRacing will save it until April next year. So that's the only way to get savings on iRacing membership. So we go from there.
Yeah, probably the best way to describe it is think of a year's worth of membership as plus 12 months on your sub. That's the best way to think about it. Or plus 24 if you go for the 2-year option, because that 2-year option is so damn cheap. I'm so glad I picked that up. All right, we are getting through to the final 30 seconds of the warm-up at this point in time, so we will be just moments away from chatting about our qualifying results. Looking like we've got about 21 drivers here in operation, potentially 22. I've just seen a late entry of Terry Marsh into the server, who failed to set a qualifying time. So I think we might actually get out to 22 drivers here tonight. Front row, though, is going to be Sam Sutton from Orbit Drop Bear Motorsports. We don't actually have our championship leader available to us here tonight, unfortunately, is away. Stefan McCartan will line up alongside of him, only a tenth of a second between these two guys. They both tried different tyre compounds from within the qualifying session. Dean Mackay was able to go through just a quarter of a second in behind and 0.06 of a second back on row number 2. Zach Rattray White also, I believe, qualified on the wet tyres. They just weren't able to quite maximise the drives in that qualifying session. Daniel Yeaman a little bit further back on board for Orbit Drop Bear Motorsports will line up alongside of Lachlan Capel. 2 more Mustangs out to row number 3. Stuart Ellis and Adam Hughes are going to be coming off nearly a second back at the moment in the Merc and the Mustang, and that's off of the 4th row of the grid. Rounding out our top 10 is going to be that of Mark Foster in the Porsche. Porsche will be loving these conditions. Alongside of him, though, will be Alex Cattle in that Ferrari. We get back outside the top 10 for Andrew Scordilis with a little bit of work to do for the One Performance Racing Mustang, and Kurt Chapman, the Project 36 Mustang, will line up alongside. Then we'll go out to the next row back. Owen Coleman, a little bit deeper in the field. He'll be behind Fozzie, and probably not all that happy with the way that Justin Martin's performing in the wet. Angus Lawford will line up alongside of him. We will get back to 15th and 16th here for Trent Allen, 200.4 seconds off the pace. 29 thousandths of a second, though. Eric Fenson, these two rather close together. Remember, there was a lot of squabbles from Eric Fenson back at Road Atlanta. Ben Jeffrey and Blake Neck are going to be in behind these guys in Merc, and I believe that's a Corvette based upon the front end of that one. Indeed, I believe it is. Brad Coates will round out inside of the top 20. Andrew Dutch will be in the Aston Martin just in behind him. Couple extra cars here tonight, I believe. Leith McClimate and Terry Marsh are going to be the final two to come from the field, and that will get us through the 22 cars minus safety car and race control that are out there here this evening. And that was a very, very quick fire start. I can tell you Terry Marsh is elected to start from pit lane, taking a look at tyre compounds, and this will be a large part of the early discussion. Everybody's on a wet tyre. There was no one willing to gamble on putting a slick tyre on in the middle of this one, and that will be Pete Baxter returning to us. And Pete, we've just seen the starting grid and the lineup for everyone. Everybody's on a wet tyre. There was not a single person thinking about gambling that time.
Absolutely, mate. Safety first. And Andrew Dutch is driving. So welcome back, Dutchy. Good to have you on the grid. Good to have you on the track. And good luck for tonight.
Good to have him here so his teammates can mercilessly mock him as we're going to go green flag racing for the front end of the field. Sutton will lead us away down into turn number 1. The rest of them are going to get boxed in a little bit. Mackay is trying to have a go at Stefan McCann. McCann will be forced to go the long way around on board the Ferrari. Looks like it's heating its tyres up. Actually, Mackay and McCann are going to get into it just a little bit. At the moment, it looks like it's a fraction dry for those wet tyres, and they'll go off quite quickly. But this opening lap, they're going to be extremely quick. From therein lies the benefit. Who can hang on to the tyres and not overcook them into the middle of the stint? Mackay runs it in deep down into turn number 2. Have a look at the rest of the field starting to feed in the background. Shoes has managed to grab a spot, and teammate Stuart Ellis. Scordillis has grabbed a couple spots as well. Dan Yeaman and Lachlan Capel hanging around. Everyone's just looking for a little bit of visibility, I think. Spray's not too bad at the moment. And that's the benefit, I suppose, of this first lap, is that at the moment, spray's not too bad. If that was a lot wetter, which it will be later on, feels hopefully going to be a little bit more spread out when we get there.
Yeah, Scotty, I think the track state right now is what I would say is right at the crossover, but you wouldn't want to start that on cold slick tyres. The driver that I'm seeing right now who's going really hard and probably just getting blocked a little bit, I think Zach Fratway right. He looks to see, I think he's got the goods. He's being held up a little bit by Stefan as far as I'm concerned. Right now, all fair and legal, good racing, but I think Zach's got some weather prowess there that we're going to see very shortly.
But I know he fired those, just his car just looks a little bit better on the colder tyre. Could be the operation as well. Dean Mackay has managed to grab himself that one spot over Stefan McCartan in the early running. So he is trying to maximise that one, get a little bit down the road. Out and out lap speed from the Ferrari was good, but just whether or not it can fire the tyres up will be a critical part of the early running of this one. I think the other things, Pete, is you mentioned if we're on that crossover, that means that at this point in time, wets will come in very quickly, but then we'll actually see probably the wet tyres go off a little bit as well. The pace will drop before we see any raindrops.
No, there is, and you and I have talked about this before. You don't necessarily get a cooling effect by driving through water on the track like you do in real life with iRacing. Maybe we will in the future, but you know, right now they're just driving on the wets, and driving through puddles doesn't actually change things. So, what I think we're going to see, I think these guys are going to heat these wets up. The track will dry off. We'll get a dry line over time with all of these cars on track, and I think that's when we're going to see some drivers maybe struggle. 15-20 minute mark will be interesting if the track stays exactly like it is, because that's going to be 10 minutes before we're due for our normal pit stops. Like I said, it's around about the 30 minute mark, so 3 stops tonight.
Rattray White gets down the inside down at turn 5. He does get up and alongside. He will actually complete the pass as well. The other thing I'm just thinking about is we just took a look at the radar, and we just took a look at the forecast. I can tell you we have a 2% chance of rain in 10 minutes time, but that's that starting bit of the race from 10 minutes time. That carries on for the 15 minutes thereafter. I reckon we're about 20 to 25 minutes away before we'll see any rain. So these tyres are already going to start to overheat, and we're still 25 minutes before we might see rain. There is every opportunity that if you can't make it on fuel, well, why not jump in the box a little bit early, get a slick tyre on, see if you can maximise. In actual fact, if you're at the back end of the field and you're feeling a little bit boxed in, now that these guys are out here in race trim, 20 cars are moving a little bit of standing warning. You can see that dry line's actually starting to appear anytime from about now. You know what? There is some people who might dive in the lane and just go and grab a set of tyres, because you will make a gain.
Personally, Scotty, I'd say too early, noting that the lap times are still 2:04s. Let's see how they go over the next 2 laps. if they get them down, if the lap times come down to about the 2 minute mark, then that is that exact crossover we talked about during the qualifying period. That we saw last week with the limited series, and some people made the call, some people didn't. But it'd be interesting, if this track does dry out too quick, then essentially that's making a 3-stop race a 4-stop race.
One entrant in the field tonight decided to jump on the Zoom call and give us a bit of an insight into what he looks like. We've been able to read the face of Dan Gaming from before. Doing reasonable at the moment into 6th spot. He is actually up. Sorry, my apologies, down 1 spot, out-qualified Lachlan Capel. Capel's made the overtake on him into 5th place. And, well, people might be looking at that one and scratching their heads a little bit. Lachlan Capel, Evolution Racing team based upon the timing. The car livery, though, matches a team move that is imminent. He has duties and commitments to the Evolution Racing team through one more V8 supercar round. And after that, free to go on his merry way. And I believe that is him showing where his colours are heading.
I think we're just about to see Owen Coleman. He's just lost it of his own accord. Yeah, a little bit of rear end slide. We can ask the question, Scotty, is that rears overheating already, or is that just overdriving in a little bit of wet? Who knows? Look, that's the question we've got. We don't have those temperatures to be able to say that's the case. But if we start to see that from other drivers, then yeah, maybe this track is going to be too dry for wets in a lap. And Scotty, what I say, last lap, 2 minute flat, right on that crossover.
Yeah, crossover.
Right. So yeah. So essentially, I think we're right. I think we've got about 10 or 15 minutes of running here, and then we might see some drivers come in and take that slip stop gamble, because you and I both know, you can drive for a little bit of time if it's really light rain on slicks, but you've got to have them hot to start with.
Yeah. And this is Angus Lawford versus Kurt Chapman. Chapman got across the the wetter part of the racetrack, got down the inside. Dry part was on the opposite side of the track. He's actually going to lift it a little bit. Somebody is diving. I think that's a Ferrari. I think it might have been Alex Cattle. Indeed it is. Cattle is going to dive in the pit lane and grab some dry tyres. In the meantime, I'm going to keep an eye on this battle. Blake Neck is the next car that's actually in behind these guys, and the Chevy who's starting to arrive on scene. Chevy's actually due to receive some updates, and that patch was I believe that one's 2 weeks away before we get our patch. We're very, very close to an update from the iRacing service. Actually, it might even be next weekend. My apologies.
Just watching Alex Cattle's pit stop, mate. He he stayed on wet tyres, so I didn't see the car raise. I think he stayed on the same hot wet tyres that he came in with. So that, to me, is just a fuel or a damage fix, yeah.
Anyway, keep an eye on board. Rattray White has now made the move to get alongside Dean Mackay. He's going to try and go out the outside. It was in some puddles on the switchback between 7 and 8. He went around the outside of 7, and there was dry groove out there. When he got to 8, that's where the puddles started to come in. Now he's placing the car in a little bit better spots. Again, I'm seeing enough of a groove there that yeah, I reckon you could get some dry tyres up to temperature. But again, the challenge is keeping it on the island whilst you do so. Keeping the car underneath you. And watching and waiting. But I can tell you that there is still no rain on the radar for now. Adam Hughes is keeping an eye on everything going on up ahead of him. That battle pack from 2nd through to 5th has tightened up just a little bit. Hughes is off the back of Dan Yeaman at the moment for 6th spot. Again, it's just keep your eyes, look for that little bit of a grey line, not a dark grey line that you can see at the moment. Anytime you start to see that, you think there'd be an opportunity. In fact, I'm just taking a quick look at some shots down the start-finish straight. It is there on the start there, right there. You just saw from the onboard shot, there was some light grey. That right there is something you can work with.
Absolutely. And Scotty, the other thing that a lot of drivers talk about in iRacing when it's wet is how much spray you're getting off the back of the car. And you can see right now that even at the fastest point, there is only a little bit of spray coming off the back of the car. It's not like the spray's coming up onto the windscreen or anything like that. So that kind of spray is an indication that we're pretty close to slicks.
Lap times have not gotten below a 2-minute flat at this point in time. Fastest lap of the race, Zach Ratcher-White. He's just put together 2-minute 8s. I can tell you that Sam Sutton's pace on that most recent lap dropped off by about 0.2. So it looks like he's starting to crest the temperature gauge on those tyres. And it's being stiffly squabbled over at this point in time because Mackay is actually starting to become a little bit of a cork in the bottle in that lead pack. And now Stefan McCartan's going to be trying to harass him, but both of those guys out into the puddles on the right-hand side of the road. Mackay's going to cover to the inside, down to turn 10. And I tell you what, Lachlan Cable's going to try and sneak up the inside of Stefan McCartan if he can't put the power down. And indeed, difficulties for the Ferrari of getting traction pressed into the ground. That's allowed Cable a little bit of an opportunity to run to get alongside. More than alongside. He's about even with the Ferrari heading down the hill into turn number 11. Looking for the outbreak. They're going to pinch each other nice and tight. A little bit wide. Touch of the grass now. This will be the challenging second, though, through 12 and 13. Capel's out into the puddles, and that is why Stefan McCartan holds on to the spot a little bit longer. Carries great speed at the final corner as well.
Yeah, great driving by both of those drivers. You know, Lockie Capel, he was beaming under brakes at that hairpin, got himself right up because Stefan had to sort of sit out wide. But I tell you what, you know, both cars are pretty even on the straight. They've both got really good traction. They're braking at the same time. I expected Lockie to outbrake Stefan. I don't know why, but he didn't. Stefan lasted late breakers with Lockie, you know, side by side. What a fabulous driving. They're still at it, Scotty.
Out of room on the outside, but still able to hang on to it. The problem was there was a lot of risk for Cable to go through the last couple of corners offline, pick up a little bit of water on those tyres, and he would have just been off completely. And that is probably the most dangerous section of the racetrack, is the last couple of corners. There's a lot of puddling in that sector of the racetrack. This little battle a little bit deeper in the field. Blake Neck is managed to get his way through on Kurt Chapman. And Neck had a little bit of an issue with trying to get those tyres up to temperature. They are now up. And now he's starting to hang on to things, but he's through 5 spots. And this one to this point in time, Dutchy's actually not doing too bad. Good to see him back behind the wheel.
Yeah, I've got Blake Neck up 6 spots, and yeah, Dutchy up 5. So who's lost out? Owen Coleman's down 5, and Alex Cattle, he's listed as down 10, but no, he has done that pit stop that we saw. So Terry Marsh up 4, but also done a pit stop. Interesting.
Well, he started from the pit lane. There you go.
Yeah. Oh, spinner.
Is that background of that one? Just trying to pick it up. Yeah, it is Andrew Dutch. Right, so, all right, we talked about him too nicely. There we go.
Yeah. All right.
Sorry, Dutchy.
Hang on, I'll be back.
I blame Pete for that one. Pete's probably going to harass him and find out what's going on board that car for the meantime. For Adam Hughes in his quest to track down Dan Yeaman. Not coming to him at this point in time. The problem being, what's the rain situation looking like? Well, still nothing at the moment. In 1 minute's time, we'll get an update to that forecast of when it's going to hit. This will be the replay of what happened to Andrew Dutch. That's out of turn 8, the slow turn 9, the left-hander right here. And that'll be an instability, a little bit of marbles, a little bit of a puddle, rears are overheated, and around she goes. So this is going to be race management here for the next little while as well. The margin of the race leads down to just over half a second. And we're starting to hear that there is a potential of rain starting to appear on the radar at this point in time, which means it is within 20 minutes away.
So, Scotty, I just had a chat with the DMT boys, Owen Coleman and Dutchy, and yeah, just both wet weather driving, lost control of the cars. So they got their head down, they're just fighting back, you know, and you know, they're going to stay on the tyres that they're on. They know the rain's inbound, but obviously it's still sort of 20 minutes or so away. So yeah, as you say, it's the first little bit has come up on our radar on iRacing. So yeah, so I think Pacific Sports Racing 17, 20 minutes away. I reckon you're spot on there from about now. So that puts us pretty close to, actually it puts us about 5 minutes over what I expect to be the first pit stop window anyway, Scotty.
Ooh, actually, I'm just taking a quick look at my my tracking. Remember how I said there was a 2% chance of rain in this next time period? That's moved to 0, and the next one's moved to 1%. So, and yeah, it is building later on into the session, and I am seeing some rain on that radar, but it is still a fair distance off. At least still going to be 20 minutes away before we see any of that. And these tyres are cooking now. Look, if they get on a slick, Pete, and you're making 4 seconds a lap, and it's only going to cost you 40 seconds, you only need 10 laps. You know, there is, if you could get a slick tyre up to temperature right now, there'd be enough time to make that time back.
Well, I think we've only got 16 laps per tank, right? So 16 to 17 laps per tank, depending on how economically you can drive the fuel. So we're halfway through a tank now. If you come in, I think now you're going to get probably, let's say 20 minutes. I think you're going to get 10 to 12 laps on that slick tyre. But do you get that advantage straight away? What's the cold, slick tyre going to cost you?
Well, the thing is, we're well and truly beyond the crossover point, is my thing. If you can absolutely wring the neck of it out and you can do 56-second lap times, well, you'll absolutely make that time back up. So there is, the problem will be managing, if you can carry on that warm slick a little while longer and extend that out to 13, 14 laps before, it crosses back in favour of the wet tyre. But remember, the wet tyre is going to be royally cooked by the time we get there. Terry Marsh has actually decided to make that call. He's made the gamble in a pit stop. He's on a dry tyre.
All right, we got someone to watch. I was going actually, my next question to you, Scotty, was exactly that. All right, who do you think should be making that gamble? Should it be anybody from P15 backwards? So Ben Jeffrey, Brad Coates, Dutchy, Young Coleman, Terry's obviously in that mix. And if you're the leader, do you think about it? I think as a leader, I think you just have to keep racing the people you're racing right now. I think trying to do something different if you're in the sort of top 5 would be silly. But I think for somebody else, if you're down the back, what do you got to lose if by taking a risk?
Well, I'll tell you the drivers that I think should be taking that risk. Blake Neck, Andrew Scordilis are the two that sort of jump out to me. And I'll give you the reasoning behind why I think they jump out as the likely candidates. Is we've seen a lot out of Scordilis. I've actually been really impressed with he's made a lot of jumps forward this year, and this is an off race and an off round for him. So there's an opportunity for him to maximise and take a little bit of a risk in the hope of a better result. Because right now, he's about 4.5 seconds back from teammate Stuart Ellis, and he's not going to make that gain. So Blake Neck's the other one coming through from the rear end of the field. The only problem is that Corvette's nuance in it is that it doesn't heat those tyres up all that quickly. The benefit of that is these conditions right here, so that actually kind of flips it back on. But yeah, I reckon there's a gain for Blake Neck at the moment. He could potentially get onto a dry tyre and go steal some spots. He's going to struggle to make spots up on the racetrack. I'll go and do it with an undercut. If we come out post pit stop and there is still, some time to be paid on that dry tyre before the wets kick over, it actually null and voids a fair chunk of this, to be honest with you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you can see that the dry line on the track is emerging lap by lap more and more at the moment as Stephen McCartan as it goes at Dean Mackay.
This has been probably one of the features of Dean Mackay's paces up front on that stint at this point in time. We saw Capel have a go at him a couple laps ago. Is Capel another candidate for potentially moving across to a dry tyre? Thinking about a defence, thinking about an offence. Mackay's covering all the way to the inside of the track. Not able to get down there, but this is going to open that door yet again for Lachlan Capel. Can he find traction? He'll back out when they get down to 12 and 13. Of that, you can be sure, because risk versus reward. And it's McCartan who's actually going to be the driver to dive to pit lane. And again, the reasoning behind that one's a little bit more clear. He's fighting. He knows that he's quicker. He knows that there is a time gain. And Hughes is actually going to follow him in. Ellis is not going to follow him. I didn't expect the whole lot of them. And I think this is wrong for the whole team to dive in, because you need somebody to stay on that alternate strategy to try and take advantage of it. So this is where having a group of guys all together, like Capel's actually been able to take full advantage of that one and get straight by Dean Mackay. But again, this comes down to, we need this dry length of time. If this goes longer than 10 laps on the dry tyre, and we think they've missed the best opportunity, of the tyre as well. So I'm going to say a couple things. Number one, I think they went 2 laps too long. And number two, that probably leaves them 2 laps short of being able to maximise that dry tyre.
No, absolutely now. But now, Scotty, we've got somebody who's in the top 5. We can now really get a benchmark. Like you and I both talked about, we think that flat 2 minutes is the crossover, right? That's the point where you can get on the slicks, you can warm them up. And as we saw in qualifying, with a sort of, a wettish or dampish track that we got now, a slicks they were doing 156s, so about 4 seconds faster. So give Stefan probably a lap or maybe 2, and then see if he's got that 3 or 4 seconds. And then I think we're going to see the rest of the field just come in and go for slicks, if that's what I see, because the rain is still, for me, 20 minutes away.
You say that, but I'm watching the outlap at the moment of McCartan, and realistically, he actually looks like he's a lot more confident than he did in the wet lap. So, there is definitely an air of keep it on the tram track, but that looks to be a lot better performing. And now he's got a dry line that he can tip into right here. He can stay 1.5 miles away from the puddle. There is a mega gain of being on this dry tyre at this point in time. The problem will be on the strategy gain, and we're not going to know the benefit of this until we get beyond the half-an-hour mark. We're still 10 minutes away from the strategy starting to open up in this one.
Yeah, absolutely, Scotty. Like I said, it's about 16 laps of fuel for the starting track, maybe 17.
Someone just jumped in. Sam Sutton's in.
Sam Sutton from the lead.
So that says what he thinks of the conditions at this point in time. I think Capel continued on.
All right. So what we really need to see is we really need to see where Sam comes out in relation to Stefan Martin. So if Stefan's got an immediate undercut, then he was about 3-4 seconds behind Sam. But we'll see where Sam comes out.
Remember, there will be probably maybe 3/4 of a second worth of extra fuel Sutton might have added. There was a big moment just then for Stefan McCartan out the final corner. So he is back out ahead. Yeah, that rain's not coming quick enough, by the way. That rain is barely moving along. So we're probably another 5 minutes on, and it's actually still a fair way away.
Yeah, I think I'm going to call this. We're going to dry flick stint ahead of us, Scotty.
One stint, exactly.
We're not looking for rain now, and I think even from Stefan, and the guys pitting now, I think there's still a full stint. I think that's sort of almost 30 minutes. The speed that rain's sort of coming in.
And Sam Sutton, for me, just ran a green sector, which means his personal best sector of the race on a cold tyre, and that was between. The straight between turn 2 and turn 3 and all the way down to turn 5, and he's extended that green sector. So he's immediately found time and massive amounts of time. Terry Marsh just did a 57 flat from the rear end of the field and sets the fastest lap of the race. That tells you the speed here. Brad Coates has picked up a penalty on the pit lane entry, I'm going to go ahead and assume. Because it is a tricky pit lane entry. And this is Adam Hughes starting to close up on a couple of cars at this point in time. That's Coleman, who's still on a wet tyre and still running. McCartan's trying to go the long way round here. But you've got to be careful because you've got to make sure you keep those slick tyres on a dry line. You could just see Hughes' car didn't turn. He got a foot wide, and all of a sudden the car didn't want to turn. It didn't want to perform. But that's the difference. And remember, that's a second lap slick tyre. It's not up to temperature and pressure just yet, but there is already a major gain for these guys.
Absolutely. Adam Hughes has sent 3 purple sectors on this lap alone, and if it wasn't for that little bit of a slide, he was on his turn for another one. So
you just talked about him, and you've absolutely thrown a puddle under his tyres at that point in time. Literally 3 purple sectors, and around he goes with the words out of Pete's mouth and the timing on that one.
Oh, no. Oh, I'm sorry, Adam.
I cannot believe. Oh, yes, he's on for a purple lap. He's just set 3 purples, and on cue, the rear end of the Mustang went around.
Oh, I better go.
Oh, no. Oh,
no,
such
I'm probably lucky Adam Hughes is not in one of the Discord channels, mate. I needed to go and apologise to him. Anyway, Hughesy, get back on the horse. You were flying there, and look, he hasn't lost too much spots anyway, to be honest. When it all evens out and the guys still on slicks, or still on wets, come back in and get their slicks, I think we're going to have a similar story. Looks like Stefan McCartan has made an advantage by being the first to come in.
Yeah, he's a second closer than he was since coming out of the pit lane. Sorry, Sam Sutton coming out of the pit lane, but I think he's taken about 2.5 seconds out of Sutton. We're getting a really, really good read. Stuart Ellis has just run a 55.6 on those tyres. So again, that's a 5-second delta to the wet tyre guys at this point in time. Rattray White is going to get murdered if he doesn't pit here. And he is in the pit lane right now. So, and you know what? He is still going to be at a massive disadvantage because there's a ton of guys with speed at the moment that'll probably pick him back off again. And he's going to have to go and make all of that gain and all of that ground back. But the tricky part will be, I think it's worthwhile saying we will get rain at this point in time, but the heaviness and severity, how quickly it kicks in, and then the degrading conditions, that is going to be the crux of this race. It's great that they've gained time on the strategy right now, but the crux of the race is going to be leaning on that challenging conditions period, Pete, and surviving that period of the race.
Yeah, but I mean, to be honest, right now, even the rain that we've got seeing on the radar, it's very, very light, Scotty. So it's the kind of rain that you're going to start in slicks anyway. The one I've been watching, like Stefan McCartney, we talked about him being the first to come in and go to slicks, other than Alex Cable, of course. But Stefan came in, the first of those leaders to come in. Lockie Cable and Stefan were racing each other. They were fighting side by side, lap after lap after lap. Lockie Cable has lost 8 seconds to Stefan by coming in 2 laps later. That's that 4 seconds a lap you've been talking about, Scotty.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing is that what they would have been hanging out for is everyone pitting. And if everyone was pitting, and it took them all off their strategy, then it was absolutely better off to stay on the wet tyre, because if it's about connecting the strategy dots. That's the risk of coming in for the dry tyres game. Right, that's the risk of that strategy. If it had hung on and the rain had come down a little bit earlier, you absolutely, so it was right on that crossover point between the two strategies, and it just swung massively in favour of getting across and onto a slick tyre, which is why you've seen these guys, the deltas trade-off being quite major. Change of position between the teammates, I believe this is Capel and Yeaman, and these two guys are on cold tyres right now. And a massive moment for Lachlan Capel. I can tell you he is right now battling away with Andrew Dutch, who was desperate to try and not let some positions go.
No, Scotty, and the other person I'm looking at right now is Dean Mackay. He's still on the slicks that he started with, currently out, but he's losing a lot of time to those guys that are on slicks. Sorry, he's still on the wets that he started with. And I'm going to say, if he can hold out on the wets and not have that extra pit stop, then that, I think right now, that's going to be what he's sort of looking for. And yeah, to be honest, we're 3 minutes away from what I thought was the pit stop anyway. So, so maybe we're pretty close to him actually not having that extra pit stop, but going to get on slicks anyway.
Yeah, but he's just lost 7.5 seconds on that lap to Adam Hughes. And that is the point that we're talking about in terms of destroying that race. It's great that you're hanging out there. It's great that you're eliminating a pit stop, but you can't afford to lose 8 seconds a lap. 8 seconds a lap, 5 laps is a 40-second pit stop. We're now hitting that point where Hughes has been on those tyres for 3 laps. Have a look at the difference between Sam Sutton, who's now P2. There are 2 guys left, I believe, out there on the wet tyres at this point in time. My apologies, there's 3. Trent Allen, make it 4. Angus Lawford, Mark Foster, Dean Mackay, all still hanging around, and Owen Coleman's actually still on a wet tyre. He's well and truly lost out massively, and that'll be his day virtually done in that one. But right now, 4 guys on a wet tyre. Trent Allen's going to have to yield on this strategy very, very shortly. In fact, he's actually just about to get sent by Adam Hughes, who had to cross a couple puddles to get that overtake done, but has managed to successfully do that one. Lawford's just lost another spot as well, just down the road. He's just lost that one to Stefan McCartan. McCartan is now on Foster. McCartan's in an effective P2 in this race right now, but they've still got about 8 seconds to gain to get their way back to Dean Mackay. That will be the challenging factor, is they've still got to track down and take some time back out of him. Mackay's now into the pit lane, so he is giving this one up, but he's made an error on the pit lane entry. He's picked himself up a penalty of some sorts. Sutton will now lead the race. It's going to be up to McCartan, who's going to make this pass for P2 in the background as well. Foster's going to be promoted back to P3 in a few moments when they go past, But for Foster, he's losing out at the moment. He's 2 laps away from potentially, maybe at the end of this one, he might be due in, which would be 15 completed laps. Potentially that 16th lap. 28 minutes and 45 seconds. He's on the window, but he is on struggle street. And there's a bunch of them fighting for it. Rattray White is now starting to close back in onto Adam Hughes. That margin's out to 4 seconds. He's just gotten through on Trent Allen. There's so much happening. This is Trent Allen back here at this point in time. He's got Capel about to go for a send down the inside. Capel has. Something happened to Dan Yeaman as well. He's now lost ground out to a couple of these guys. Hughes will go through. Sorry, my apologies. Scordillis, it was in the OPR car. Yeaman has gone through as well. And Trent Allen was just sort of left there and told, well, bud, your tyres have had it. They're cooked. Try and survive around the outside because there is a train of us coming through.
No, absolutely, Scotty. And Scordillis is giving Lockie Cable a really, really hard time. He is out-braking him significantly into those big braking zones and catching right up. But Lockie's been able to just hold off and defend the corners and drive out with even speed. But I tell you what, this is a fight that they're both going to enjoy, I reckon.
Yeah, tricky conditions, changeable conditions. At the moment, puddles still in awkward places, creating awkward moments for the guys. A little bit of a mistake now for Scordillis, and he's now going to be forced to defend because here comes Dan Yeaman back at him at this point in time. And again, the best of the best drivers are all making challenging mistakes at this point in time, just trying to get power down, trying to get cars to turn in. And it was a mistake from Scordillis just a few moments ago that triggered that opportunity for Yeaman. Times are tumbling. Sutton ran a 52 flat on the last lap. What's he going to run this time by? What's Yeaman going to send out to the inside as they get down at the back end of the straight? He's made contact. He's trying to straighten back out. Scordillis has managed to do so. And I figure he'll probably have to yield because he'll have to go through the puddles. And yeah, that won't work, Dan Yeaman. And manages to slot back in behind. That was a wild ride on a slick tyre as he went through the gutter of puddles around the outside. Pit lane alarm. Trent Allen finally yields on that strategy and he will come to pit lane. Foster has gone for another lap. He's running to the end of his fuel strategy. We are beyond half an hour into this race. So Foster will do the least pit stops of the lot of them. Trent Allen might be able to make that strategy work. And Owen Coleman's also yet to make his first pit stop. But he will be absolutely struggling. Worthwhile having a look at his lap times. His most recent lap, 2-minute flat, 0.3. Car behind, 154.1. 6 seconds out of him. Here comes Kurt Chapman, who's actually going to get that pass done. This battle's not worth taking your eyes off either, is the trouble that we've got, is that the spots being picked up and lost. And a whole bunch of spots. That's Foster just ahead of these two guys, who is on a wet tyre still. Watch as they'll slot in behind Foster. They'll just try and go straight around the outside of him, or if Foster can't keep it on the island, there was a puddle touched right at that point in time. Yeaman's going to try and go the long way around. Gets there, pins him against the car that's on the wet tyre. And Foster not quite able to get the power down. And remember, still on that wet tyre. He will probably be pitting at the back end of this lap. But he's got to survive to get there. And at the moment, he's 22 seconds off the race. Tell you what, if he gets a pit stop out, he is in and approximately at the right fuel window. He's potentially on to be leading this race on strategy.
Yeah, absolutely, Scotty. Like I said, well, I don't know. You're still going to save that pit stop, right? Which is a whole 40 seconds at the end of the race. But right now, you know, they have Foster and Alan Coleman. They took the gamble to stay on slicks a lot longer. They haven't, they're just driving, so they don't have a view of the radar. They didn't realise how slow that rain was moving. It's caught you and I both out. You know, obviously it's popped up on the radar, but it's barely moving. It's barely coming towards the track. So, you know, when earlier we said, hey, there's rain coming, it looks like it's going to be about 20 minutes into the race. To be honest, it's moved about 5 minutes of that, in quotation marks, 20. So, I think for sure we're going to see rain in the back hour, but I think, yeah, this is a slick stint to go. Owen and Fozzie both hanging out for it. Brad Coates, meanwhile, and to quote, collecting black fags like they're game trophies.
Blake next just had a moment we're hearing just recently as well. Blake next also coming into the pit lane.
I don't think he was coming in the pit lane, Scotty.
Surely that's going to be an unsafe lane entry. Yeah, it's not a pit lane entry. That's why.
No, yeah, he might get a shortcut time, which will drag off pretty quick. But hopefully he's got enough fuel to do enough lap if he was running out of fuel.
Late neck pit butt on the end of lap 13. So he's in a Goldilocks zone in terms of the fuel that he had to add. Right. So the critical thing is, I think Foster has jumped on over to that dry tyre now. Where will he actually, is he pit? He is. I'm sure I saw before he's driving a pit lane.
Yeah, just come out now in P14. So everybody now is on slick tyres. Yeah, rain on the radar, but like I said, this is at least 10 laps. So yeah, at least a majority of this stint. And for some who've already done 5 or so laps on these tyres, it's going to be a full slick stint, Scotty.
Yeah, so at least everyone able to maximise. I think one of the things everyone was sort of relying on was that that rain coming across a lot quicker. Now we're just starting to see it, and it will come down quite heavily, quite early on into that stint once it does land. But have a look at where it's coming from. It's barely moving in the right direction. Then it looks like there might be a whole. We could end up with a situation where we don't necessarily get a whole bunch of rain. Coleman will now pit, and for those guys that are just joining in the pit lane, they will only do 3 pit stops because they've gone far enough into this race. But the problem will be they've sacrificed so much time out on track.
Now, if you have a think about it, I mean, yeah, we're going to watch Owen Coleman drop down the line now, but Owen was down the back anyway because he had that spin. So he's got nothing to lose by taking risk. And it's worthwhile. What have we got? Dame Yeaman, 5-second penalty there for causing incident. I want to go back and see if we can
that
find
was SUDSPEED on lap 15. Yeah, so
yeah,
we've already had a little bit of a look at that one, but regardless, race controls picked it up and penalised, which we all sort of knew. Definitely on Yeaman there. Either way, been handled. In the meantime, I think this is Andrew Dutch struggling and in the wrong place on track. Out and a little bit wide, and Trent Allen will scoot on through. Looks like he's got his tyres up to temperature now. Struggling to near as much, and then I say that, and he has a big old wobble entering into turn 7. Terry Marsh has also had some dramas that we're going to see new fastest lap for Rattray White. This is at the exit of turn 1 into turn 2, and now onto that straight. Rear end of the Mustang. Let's go. New fastest lap of the race, down to 49. I tell you what, they would now be 11 seconds faster than those wet tyre runners. There was absolutely a crossover point. And I reckon Rattray White is kicking himself for how long he held out.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you, Scotty. I mean, we called it when Stefan McCartan came in as potentially a lap early, but as I think, what's the cliche? So you've got to be on the right tyre at the right time, and Stefan picked that perfectly, and he's gained a great advantage over the drivers he was racing with from it. So good luck to him. Well done.
I got to say, Pete, I actually reckon that was crossover point 2 laps earlier than that. I really genuinely think that they waited far too long. Either way, it's the risk. The risk was the strategy, and that was the problem. And I think Rattray White's actually going to go faster on this lap because I'm seeing a lot of purple sector times for him as it stands. Right. Foster, has he worked his way into this tyre stint? Now, with a little bit of temperature into them. Dean Mackay's actually just ahead of him, so this is where he's recovering after his penalty. And that was for entry of pit lane as well. And Mackay's lap speed is the other 151.7. Andrew Dutch is ahead of him, was 3 seconds slower on that most recent lap. So the next 2 cars, which is Trent Allen and Andrew Dutch, both struggling significantly. So this will turn itself into a 3-car battle very, very quickly. I've been rather impressed with Dean Mackay's pace this year. Again, another driver I think has improved quite massively. As that producer is just sending me cricket-related memes on Facebook, I'm sure. I get a notification. I just heard my phone go off, and I saw it was from Jay, and it was absolutely cricket-related and on Facebook. And for those of you who don't know, Sam Constas was bowling in the PM's 11 game for a little bit of fun in the background.
Can't bat, can't bowl.
Oh, big moment for Andrew Dutch at the bottom end of the hill. So Dutchy struggling to keep the car on the island at the moment. Righto, 40 minutes into this one as the conditions continue to change. And the tricky part is taking a read of that race thus far. The conditions and reading them has been the biggest challenge of them all. And D. Mackay actually just took 2 seconds out of Trent Allen on that most recent lap. That's Andrew Dutch in the background. Now the rain's starting to speed up. You know, it's moving much quicker to the track now.
But there's also a bubble in that rain, so it mightn't, the actual rain mightn't get to us. See how the bubbles like just in that approach. What I'm watching, Scotty, Stephen Carton, Stuart Ellis, Adam Hughes, Andrew Scudillis. They were the early stoppers. Lap 9. We're now on lap 20, so that 5 laps to go on fuel. And now put that in the context of the rain that's coming in. So we're at 5 laps to go, so that's 12 minutes of racing. With the rain coming in, the rain is possibly 15 to 20 minutes away, looking at that. What call do you make? You have to stay on slicks, right? Even though there's a green patch in that rain, you can't put wets on until it's here, really. So, so what I'm thinking through the race now, are we in a situation where the guys have got that early stop and got a nice advantage by getting on the slicks at the right time in the race? Are they now in a situation where they might potentially have to double stop given the timing of the race and now their new pit cycle? Whereas the likes of Coleman, Foster, those guys who hung out on dries for a lot longer, they've now got a bigger window to be able to drive to on the slick tyres to get to when that rain comes in and might not necessarily have to do 2 stops.
Well, it's I would say that it's a little bit of a, gain then loss. And the reason I'll give you both here, I think Ben Jeffries actually just at a moment down at turn 1 and 2. And the reason I'll say that is, yeah, sure, look, if the window does fall on that marker, but if it doesn't, then realistically, the earlier you came in and put slicks on, well, if you can get onto those second set of slicks nice and early, this will be the replay for what happened to Ben Jeffrey. 1 to 2, touches the curb on the inside. Yeah, you can't do that just quite yet. The confidence level comes up, and you want to use as much of the track as you possibly can, but it's not back to a dry line as of yet. Yeah, so realistically, Pete, is you've got to clear... If you can get half an hour in on this stint and then 15 minutes into a second stint, that's actually perfect for those guys. But if you get half an hour into this stint and then you only get 5 minutes into the next stint before you switch over to wets, you have to sort of make 2 pit stops and you get no gain. So that's the risk, I think, versus the reward.
And the unknown is the speed of that rain. It's like a really awkward speed right now because of the way that it's shaping up. Like it might just go around the track, without actually raining. So but we know it's there, we know it's on the radar, and we'll get Jay to keep popping it up so everybody can see what we're talking about. Otherwise, we're just 2 random buffheads talking about rain that doesn't come in a race over 2 hours. And that would look silly. So you better show the radar, Jay.
You know what? Don't. If Pete looks like a buffhead, I'll take it. That's a win for me. So.
It's got to happen every now and then, doesn't it? Once every 50 years or so is okay. I can live with
that. Hey mate, who was taking advice from me in a 24-hour race about what tyres to put on and when? Who was the crossover guy? Yeah, early on this year. Yeah. All right. For the moment, though, Blake Neck is continuing to make some progress at this point in time. Closest battle on track. Sort of keeping an eye on as he runs down Angus Lawford. So making some gains again. Took 0.8 of a second out of him on that most recent lap. Best lap of the race actually just came at the last time of asking, 49.4 for Adam Hughes. In fact, it was a 49.499, so effectively a 49.5 from Adam Hughes. So his speed is quite good at the moment. Made a little bit of a gain, but everyone in that lead group sort of down at a low mid 49s, you would say, at this point in time. So again, it's just about managing and getting deep enough into the race. But it's interesting to note, that's when you consider the lap speeds that we started at, we've had a 15-second speed time differential between lap 1 and where we are right now. That's moved that marker for how many laps. I think my numbers that I was showing earlier on in the race, we're only going to get about 55, somewhere 52 to 55 laps. We're out over the 60s now. Ooh, sorry, another issue.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, 1 minute 50s, I estimated us to do 62 lap race. So when we're doing 2 minutes flats for the start of the race, that's going to slow us down to about sort of in the 50s, Scotty. So we'll see how it goes. And as the rain comes and the lap times drop off again, it's going to drop back a bit.
That's that moment for Terry Marsh again. Just tricky tyres. The problem with these conditions is that the groove you have to drive is incredibly narrow. You sort of got to keep it within that. If you don't keep it within that, that's the issue. And as that groove widens up, obviously it becomes a fair bit easier. But there is still so much standing water. Air temperature is, I think, big factor within this one at this point in time. And that will be causing a lot of grief. Low wind speed this evening as well. 13 kilometers an hour is rather low at the moment. This is Stefan McCartney keeping an eye on. And there's the big thing. That sun leftmost icon, ladies and gentlemen, 19 degrees Celsius air temperature. When that air temperature gets a little bit hotter, let's say a 25 or so, the puddles disappear significantly quicker.
Yeah, and Scotty, this track will hold water. It's particularly on the curbs, on the inner curbs of a lot of races. So even though the guys are running on a dry line, they still can't jump onto the curbs like they normally would. There's a lot of water in some of them. And we've seen a couple of people touch them and then, they just lose the car straight away. So it's still a tricky racetrack to drive.
Yeah, not easy at the moment. This is the battle between Kurt Chapman and Angus Lawford, as Lawford's going to get down the inside and get that one done. Like next, the Corvette in the background that's just starting to range up on these guys a little bit. Somebody's got an issue at this point in time. And Alex Cattle, who was having a difficult night to this point, has got a meatball flag. That is a lot of puddle on the left-hand side of the road, and then it just kept going. Oh yeah, that's a big hit.
It's certainly, if he hasn't used it already, because we saw Alex go in quite early. That's a fast repair job if he hasn't used it already.
Yeah, so we'll wait a little bit, I think, just to see if there's any update from Alex Cuttle. In fact, he's left the server for the evening, so his day is indeed done. Now, this is the teammates, Adam Hughes and Stefan McCartan, and mates as well. They've been friends for a fair while. These guys, across multiple different team partnerships. Moved around a little bit.
Good on you, Jay. You're a legend. You keep putting up that radar. I love your work. Scotty, I'm trying to... John Trott, you're out there on listening to us on YouTube. John's made... He must be spotting for Stefan. He made the call for Stefan to change on the slicks early. I'd really like to see if John can come and join us in the chat, because I want to know if he's spotting and doing that call for Stefan, what they're thinking about where the rain is and how it's coming up. I'd love to hear from you, John.
Moment. Keeping an eye on Rattray White's progress. So he starts to range up on the back of Stuart Ellis. So this will be for fourth spot. Was 6/10 quicker than him on that most recent lap. So he's definitely making some gains at the moment. Tell you what, Lachlan Capes also was quite quick on that most recent lap. In fact, he's also got the fastest lap, which continues to improve at this point in time. 49.313 for Capel. Wasn't last lap, was just recently. That's our race leader, Sam Sutton. That's the gap back to Adam Hughes and P2 at the moment. McCartan's in behind them, and then the next few cars on track are all relatively line astern. You have Ellis, Rattray White, Capel, 4th, 5th, 6th. Dan Yeaman's had some further dramas. He sits 15 seconds back from this pack. He's struggling at the moment, although there's a grin from ear to ear. I have a sneaking suspicion I know where Pete went. I wonder whether or not he's bothering those guys at this point in time. Yeah, I can confirm Pete is indeed chatting to those guys. Not much of a reaction from Dan. Really mentioning too much. There you go. Now he's on the mic. And a bit of a wave. It seems that the grumpy cat can indeed become the Cheshire cat with a widening smile. A widening smile at the moment of the Mustang of Zach Rattray White as it looks to range in on the Mercedes of Stuart Ellis. Starting to make some gains. Not quite an opening just yet. This will give Capel an opportunity in behind to start to make some gains of his own. 49.241, fastest lap of the race in that most recent lap, by the way, for Rattray White. Capel ran a 2.90, so nothing between those two guys and their quest to try and hunt down Stuart Ellis. Ellis ran a 49.8. I believe that's his first 49 of the day. Rattray White's actually going to make a big mistake in the dirty air and run a fraction wide.
Now, Scotty, I've got the man I wanted to talk to, Johnny Trott.
Cool.
Hey, John, it's Pete Baxter. You are live on the broadcast, so don't do what I do. I get in trouble for that every week. You made a massive call with Stefan McCartan to bring him in on slicks early. Scotty and I think it was the right call at the right time. What are you thinking now for Stefan for the rest of the race?
I think it was the right call. I'm a bit worried that I might have called it a little bit too early to match up with how the rain's coming in, but Stefan's pretty confident on the call, so we think we're on the right pace.
And you're looking at, obviously we're looking at radar, we know that there's some rain coming. Where are you in terms of pitting before or after that rain? Do you think you're going to be in and stay on slicks and then have to do another stop, or you hold out as long as you can?
No, we'll be in soon. I think we've only got a few laps left. But you'll see whether we stay on slicks or not. Keep that one a secret.
Fair enough. Yeah, that's all right. I know others are listening, so you can be as coy as you want. But mate, thanks for coming in. I really do appreciate it. Get back there and talk Stefan through what he's got to do those last few laps of this stint, and good luck for the rest of the race.
Good. Thanks, boys.
I know, so it's quite clear they've got their head down at being coy, trying not to give anything away at this point in time, and who could blame them? I think the challenging thing at the moment, I'm just keeping an eye on Zach Rattray White. He's actually making a few mistakes at the moment. I'm wondering whether or not the rear end of the Mustang's tyres might be starting to overheat. He actually had really good pace, and the tyres seem to hang on and hang on and hang on board that car whilst we're in the wet tyre phase of the race. But whether or not they might be cooking now that we're onto the dry segment. Again, just trying to climb a little bit closer to Stuart Ellis. See if he can't get the job done.
Yeah, Scotty, I just also had a chat with the Orbit drop pad guys, so Dan Yeoman, Lockie Capel, Sam Sutton. Those guys are flying, as we know. They're pretty sure that they're going to end up in a pit stop situation before the rain. So I think in Dan's words, we're just going to take it as it comes, do whatever stops we need to.
And they will keep their head down and see what they can continue doing. And there's a bunch of guys diving into pit lane right now, and it was those three guys that all came in together. And all the drop bear guys, 2nd, 3rd and 4th on the road, will clear a little bit of a hole for Zach Rattray White to get out and into. The critical factor will be, can they make the gain? So Hughes, McCartan, Ellis, fresh set of dry tyres. I don't think they will tell us too much. And there's been a replay for Andrew Scordillas, who's potentially had a moment of his own. Yeah, it is a moment of his own, I believe. That's actually over at turn 9. Gets off the racing line so he can rejoin nice and safely.
No, and I was keeping an eye on Scordillas there, but as you guys were watching, he had a spin. He was the 4th of 4 drivers that pitted on lap 9, so all of them now have come in. That they got an 18 lap fuel stint out of that. So a little bit more fuel efficient than I calculated at the start of the race. So that's not too bad. It doesn't change the pit stop side. It's still a 3-stopper plus whatever you would need to do if the rain comes at the wrong time for the race. But yeah, no, as the guy said, you know, they have to stop because they're out of fuel. There's only one tyre to be on right now, Scotty, but that's unfortunate because we know that rain is coming.
I think that'll be the big thing, is how much you're pressing on, how deep are you looking to try and take it, and how quickly is that bubble of rain transitioning towards the circuit. And I tell you what, conditions out there are continuing to improve for the short term and devolve for the long term, I think is probably the best way to talk about it. Blake Neck has made some gains. Yeah, look at that bubble. It's just interesting. There is a wall of heavy rain behind it. Should we get it, we will transition into heavy rain very, very quickly. For Neck, though, at this point in time, he is 14 laps into his stints, probably about 4 left to go, as he looks to try and maximise the warm tyres he's on at this point in time. And indeed, a mistake from Stuart Ellis will certainly help that one. That looks like a set of cold, slick tyres he's just placed on board car number 73. The grip differential between those two cars?
No, it's got to be expecting Sam Sutton and Kurt Chapman in next, based on the lap 10 pit stops that they had.
Sutton's got a good deal of control over the race at this point in time as well, so for now it's just a little bit of the status quo as we wait for this next round of pit stops to eventuate, and everyone's sort of just waiting on a big mistake from someone as well. And we are closing in on the 1 hour mark. That could be a critical number to hit as well. Sam Sutton's actually just started his 18th lap on this stint, so I believe he'll be in at the end of this one. With the margin that he's got, there's every opportunity he spends the remaining half of the race fuel saving to try and eliminate that stop.
Yeah, well, if he's able to pull this in mind, this is lap 29, so this would be his 19th lap, Scotty. So so that's a lap further than the others have done, and that's well and truly over the 30-minute mark. So that would put him into 34-minute mark, 19 laps, particularly as the times slow down, which means potential. I can't say this, Scotty. He won't get away with this in one more stop, because we know he's going to be on slicks, and we know halfway through this stint he's going to be hitting the need for wet weather tyres, right?
Well, we assume. we assume it's, yeah. But widen that window where you get the benefit is the big thing they're all thinking about tonight. Compared to last week's race, we had a vastly different race. It came and it went a lot quicker. Last weekend, and Sam Sutton rejoins the racetrack, and he will rejoin relatively comfortably clear of the field at this point in time. That's McCartan on his way through. Yeaman's in, and Capel are both in as well. That's Capel rejoining. Now, remembering that will be probably onto a cold tyre for car number 8. Oh, look at Adam Hughes wringing the neck out of the Mustang in the background, and the attitude out of turn 2. So he is trying to put the power down.
Yeah, Adam was sensational on cold tyres at the first stint too. So let's see if he's got that same, I guess, blister of speed, burst of speed as he's on cold tyres. So it was interesting that his setup must be sort of one that works really, really well on the colds, because others are taking a few more laps to warm up. Certainly chasing down Lucky Capel. Sorry, Scotty.
Yeah, 58 minutes. Sorry, we are 58 minutes into this race. We are 2 minutes away from hitting the 1 hour mark, and to this point, it's been a battle of who pulled and jumped onto the right tyre at the right time, and looking like the teams with spotters were able to make the calls nice and early. Rattray White's just gotten himself a pit lane entry penalty. That's a black flag, and I believe he's on the way into the pit lane right now. And that, I think, is going to be some sort of penalty for him, potentially also an unsafe entry.
Yeah, I'll go back and have a look, Scotty, but you're absolutely right. There's a black flag showing for him.
Yeah, he cut the pit lane. He cuts across the lane.
Cuts entry.
Yeah, he touches the water in the puddle. And that's the part of that one, so he'll be annoyed with it. Watch this on the left right here. So the two little markers there, you can't touch those. That's the issue. That would have triggered, I think, a slowdown penalty. Potentially that you have to clear by the line, and where you get it, and then you have very little time to resolve it. Well, for him, he's stuck in pit lane. There's not much he can do until that penalty has been served. So he will wait furiously, about 5 seconds away from rolling out of pit lane. So, hang on. Oh, Coleman's had an issue, had a drama of some description. Parked up. At this point, this is off the exit of turn 4. On the run down to turn 5 where they go underneath the bridge. And he is still not moving.
Same thing, Scotty, exactly same thing that happened to Owen early in the race. Coming out of that turn, he's just lost the rear end and all on his own. Yeah, look at that. But I think he's hit the wall pretty hard there. Not moving at all. Haven't heard. He has texted a permission to tow. We haven't heard anything from race control yet. So we may get a safety car. There we go. Safety car, safety car, safety car, boys. All right, safety car, safety. What do you do? Pit stops? Pit stops?
Well, that'll be the problem for everyone that hasn't been a pit lane. They have to pit at this point in time. So, but it's just going to bunch the field back up, and this will be critical because the weather is coming. But the problem is, how quickly is it coming? At the moment, the dry tyres are about 10 seconds a lap quicker than the wets. So you'd need to get the wets here realistically in about 3 laps. If the rain didn't come down and cross over in less than 3 laps, you'd stay on the dry. So I think everyone should be staying on the dry tyre. It's still too far away.
Yeah, Scotty, on the Zoom radar on iRacing, so we get 2 radars for those that don't know. On the loop radar, that's the one that Jay's showing us right now, but on the Zoom radar, which has the rain in the track, it's showing, this is actually showing no rain, but on my screen, on my server feed, Scotty, I'm seeing rain.
I am too, actually. Final 2 corners, it's raining. It is actually raining. This is a switch over to wet tyre. This is critical. This is just hit out of nowhere, but there is rain on the track. Rattray White is going to lead the race because he made a pit stop, the end of last lap. So he's only just recently been in. And Blake Nick has made the decision to jump to a wet tyre. Angus Lawford's getting a speeding, again, unsafe entry style penalty. But the problem is, the edge of this rain is very light, and then it buckets down, and that's the problem.
No, but Scotty, we're going to have a slow period behind the safety car. Everybody we're seeing is coming out, that's going into the pit is coming out on wets. Those that pitted recently on hot slicks, they seem to be staying out for now, but let this normalise. I think the smart call is pit stop, refuel, even if you only come out a couple of laps ago. Pit stop, get on to wets now, have them warm up because this rain's only going to get heavier.
It's only light for now. And then we're going to cross over here. And it won't be long. Yeah. And that advantage of the tyres is going to fall off rather massively. I'm seeing times at the moment, even with the rain that we're seeing to this point, still into a 50-second range, what they can still do in these conditions behind the safety car as it stands, just because of the way that the server operates. There's no limitation on the lap time. And that's a car that's struggling. Is that, yeah, that is Sam Sutton behind him, so he's actually okay to be doing that. He's not losing any time. That's our race leader.
And there we go. So the leader has just picked up the safety car, so this is the time when those slick tyres are going to start to cool off. They'll stay pretty warm, I think, for this safety car period. If the rain stays as it is, Scotty, given that they've got a tank full of fuel, it's probably not a bad call because they're going to have to change the slicks eventually, but the longer they can go, I think the better off for them if they can stay on the slicks for a little while.
There's a lap car in that queue for Mike Foster, who's at second in that queue, which will be interesting because they'll need to let them go as much as possible. Sutton's already warming them aggressively because he is very desperate to maintain some temperature. Wouldn't be surprised for them to try and clear these cars as quickly as possible. You know what? If we go around this next lap, I reckon we're going to hit this crossover.
Yeah, no, let me remind everybody about the weaving behind the safety car. So right now, while the train is behind the safety car, everybody can weave and do tyre manoeuvres. As the safety car is called to drive off to pit lane on the lap to green, and the race leader takes control of the field, all tyre warming manoeuvres, that's weaving and accelerating or braking, must stop, and the cars must be within 3 car lengths of each other. It might be 2 car lengths of each other in this series, but the cars must be close together, get ready for the race start. There was a fair bit of conjecture at our Watkins Glen round about who was weaving when, and it's all been cleared up now. So whilst it's all fair and to do it right now, Scotty, but if they do go early, I think it's going to be another lap because everybody's going to catch up the train yet.
We're still going to do wave bys. So,
yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, this might actually be a great opportunity at this point in time. Want to say a big thank you to the sponsors that keep everything happening for the Open Series. Then we might just take a little bit of a break because there's wave by procedures. There's a lot to sort of unpack at this point in time. So proud partner for the Open Series is SUDSPEED, and they also bring us the safety car. QB Graphics and Sim Racing and Focus bring us the Premier Endurance League Open Series. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back in a few. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to SUDSPEED's Premier Endurance League Open Series. And pit stops in the safety car have just been underway. We've got an interesting battle here. 6 cars at the front end of this pack are on slick tyres, but they've been under safety car conditions. Some temperature's gone away from them. They may not last all that much longer because the rain intensity is starting to pick up. It's still light-ish for now. It will still be a slick tyres day for a little while longer. They've got to make time, and they've got to make it quickly in conditions that are going away whilst they have no tyre temperature. That's the challenge that's ahead. Kurt Chapman's the guy to keep your eyes on. See if he can actually make some gains. Leader has control. We are in the hands of Sam Sutton right now, and to be honest, I'd be wanting to go as early as I possibly can. We've got to build time to the wet tyre runners, and I need to go as early as possible to build that time. In the meantime, though, he's backing up Stefan McCartney as we get set for a restart. These tyres have been on these cars for a couple of laps now. What temperature are they going to be able to maintain when we go back to green flag conditions? He held them a long time out of the final corner. Finally elects to go. And the field will run on down. The first car on wet tyres is Blake Neck at this point in time. So, yeah, it is Blake Neck in the Corvette. So he will try and bring those wet tyres up to temperature, but you can just see, look at the front 6 cars just leap away. But they've got to find a pit stop worth of time, or else they are in trouble. Have a look at how quick Dean Mackay is at the moment. Neck is having a supreme amount of issue trying to get those tyres up to temperature. Just jumps out of the way. Now Rattray White and Mackay go through. There's definitely a gain to being on the slick tyre right now, but that is going to change in a very, very aggressively. And I can tell you, session has just gone back to very lightly wet in terms of track condition, which means it's just going to go away. There's been contact between McCann and someone at this point in time.
Yeah, Scotty, the rain radar looks like it's just about to go up another level of rain. We're not yet anywhere near the green. I think we've got about 5 or 10 minutes of this level of rain. I think it's going to make the track damp. That's my read. The dry line is going to disappear in about 2 laps, I reckon. And I think that's yeah, got to make hay while the sun shines, don't they say? But right now there ain't much sun shining.
And the problem is, not a lot of temperature on board those tyres as well. This is the moment I just heard McCartan on the radio about this. That is, I believe, locking cable down to his inside as they made the apex of turn 5. The problem with being on the outside there is the amount of puddles that are on the outside of turn 5. And the problem is the groove is so narrow down there. Who's in the inside gets priority to that one. Either way, it's now Sutton from Cable from Hughes. So that'll be the debate that race control will have. And the difficulty with administrating and policing a wet race is that the groove narrows, so effectively it becomes a little bit more of a street circuit. Have a look at the circuit temperature. Got up to 19 degrees, it's already barreled back down to 17.
Yeah, absolutely, and we're still very light wet conditions, but we're about to jump into, on the radar, a little bit heavier rain, and there's more to come.
5 seconds the time difference between the wet tyre and the slicks at this point in time. Mackay just ran a 59.1, Rattray at a 59.3. And the slick tyre guys back into the mid-50s. But, again, that temperature not in the tyre. I'm still not seeing a lot of spray. The slick line is narrowing. That dry groove on the racetrack, and that'll be temperature-related. Spray is starting to come from underneath the rear end of some of these GT3 machines.
As I talked about earlier, Scotty, one of the indications on iRacing that you're due to go into wets is you start to get a whole lot of spray out of the machines. While you don't have any spray, slick tyres is tight to go, but as that spray starts coming up and getting in behind the cars, you know that track's getting into wet and damp.
I can tell you the first half of the lap, it's about 1.5 seconds faster still on the slick this time. Just keeping an eye on sector times right now.
I was watching the Dean Mackay Kurt Chapman battle, and they were Dean Mackay and Zach Rattray White are actually battling quite hard. And you know, you talk about a 5-second lap difference. I think the battle in itself is going to cost them a second or two anyway, because Dean Mackay is having to defend quite hard into the hairpins and the tight corners. Zach Rattray White seems to have it at the moment under braking, but Dean's been able to defend so far. But that in itself is going to add to the difference in time they got between slicks and wet tyres.
Yeah, and this is Dan Yeaman trying to really get through on, well, we were seeing just before Dan Yeaman on Stefan McCartan and that Ferrari, a little bit further up the road, and it's Hughes on Capel who's trying to have a battle as well. So It's the entire Orbit Drop Bear stable versus One Performance Racing on the racetrack at this point in time. And Hughes is having a big old dive at Lachlan Capel. Capel's going to go the long way round at turn 1. And he wants a little bit of room, so he's not touching the puddles as they run down the straightaway between 2 and 3. Capel will have the inside down here. Brakes a little bit later than others Hughes, but is Hughes going to try and rotate it back up the inside? A puddle in the middle of the corner. Touch of the curbing on the apex. And that destroys the run and the crack that he was starting to have right now. But again, what do the lap times look like? Back into a 52, so a little bit of temperature build-up on the tyres right now. But the rain is continuing to build. This is the difference on the most recent lap. And it's 7 seconds currently faster for the slicks. But the conditions, they are degrading. They're just not degrading quick enough.
No, they're not, Scotty. And, you know, we talked already about, well, I have, about Adam Hughes and how fast he's been on cold tyres as straight out of the pit stop. And again, cold tyres straight off the safety car. He's a demon on these cold tyres. So whatever they got in that setup, it's working really well for cold tyres. I haven't seen him have that same...
Oh, here comes Hughes! And Capel's having a crack at Sutton at the same time. Right, it's on for the race lead. Capel squeaks on through. Sutton had the yield on that occasion. He is struggling for tyre speed, tyre warm-up right now. Hughes has got speed. And he sort of forced Capel into having a go at that one, because if Capel didn't have a go, he was going to have a crack at Capel. So that's sort of what's forced that into. So now Sutton goes from leading the race. He's led every lap of the race to this point, barring the pit stop strategy races. New race leader for this lap. What is Lachlan Capel able to do now that he's got the lead? Sutton's actually starting to come back at him. So strengths and weaknesses in different areas of the racetrack in challenging, tricky conditions.
No, very tricky, Scotty, and that dry line is disappearing, and we're seeing more and more spray lap after lap as some drivers are struggling. Who is it? Somebody's just had a little bit of an off there. Chapman's had a little bit of an off in the last 2 corners coming onto the straight, so he's lost a bit of time. He has made up time being on slicks and got around all of those wet tyre runners, Scotty, since we restarted. But I think that last corner I talked about at the start of the race, really, really tricky in the wet, that last, particularly turn 14 coming on to the start-finish straight. Get that wrong, you lose heaps of time.
Have a look at the lead group. They're all bottled up in behind each other. 4 cars battling for the race lead. This is the next 2. This is Dan Yeaman and how close he is now to McCartan. And he's going to switch sides of the road, crosses over through that puddle, just because he's looking for every opportunity. I think at the moment it's just trying to harass, force a mistake, particularly in the conditions as they start to degrade, because he can sense that lead group is just down the road. They just can't stay connected to them for now. Stuart Ellis runs a little bit wide right here at 9, just a few moments ago. And again, Yeaman's looking to get some drive and get some traction. But if you step outside of that groove, you're in a little bit of pain. Sutton's been overtaken. Hughes has gotten his way through onto P2. I think Yeaman in the background's just got that move done. Yeah, I thought I saw the Mustang get its job done on the Ferrari. That one's being done as well. Can he start to drive his way back up to this lead group? So a group of 4. What is Hughes capable of? He looks quick and racy in these conditions. Now that he's through and he's not being held up just a little bit, all of a sudden, it's difficult to be the lead driver. And that'll be the problem for Capel. He knows that the conditions will change lap to lap, but he's got to take the risk for this group. Need to take a look at the lap times as they come this time through. Dan Yeaman's had some issues as well. I think there might have been additional contact between himself and McCartan. Lap time still in the 54s and 55s. Mid to high 54s, if not into the 55s. How long can these guys continue on? They're still 5 seconds a lap faster at the moment than the wet tyre runners. They're yellow in the rain. That is the heaviest bit of it.
Scotty, that yellow's quite a long bit away, but I tell you what, we are right on the verge of the green. And the green is when the track gets wet. So these slick tyre runners, I think they do only have a lap or 2 left before the track is going to be wet, and they're going to have to come in to change tyres. But I tell you what, they've gone an extra couple of laps than I thought they might. That rain, as I said all day, it's moving slowly. It's making us wait, Scotty. Is the best yet to come?
Just waiting, because I saw this. I went back and had a look at it. McCartan's run a little bit wide there. There was no room left on the outside for Dan Yeaman. That one will be a slam dunk penalty for race control. But there was an additional message. So 85 called in an instant, which is Yeaman on McCartan, which is the one we saw, but there was a secondary one. And I'm just going to try and grab some details on it for our producer, see if we can grab a replay, because there was more talked about. Just prior to that. and it was lap 38, hairpin bump and run for Stefan McCartan. So I think he's referencing turn 10 on lap 38. So he's saying that the only reason that Yeaman got through was a bump and run. So it's a little bit being paid back in both essences. This is off of turn 9 and the run down to the hairpin. Crosses him over. There's overlap there. And he's saying, so Stefan McCartan's effectively saying that at that point, that's completely different. I tell you what, the OPR cars just all dived into pit lane. All of the drop bear cars did not. And there is still temperature and there is still warmth on board these slick tires. They just done a 56 and 57, so the temperature and the times are starting to grade out of the slick tires. I reckon we're only about 2 laps to go before we'll get off the slicks, but I think the game is still on the slick right now. The problem will be is warming those wet tires up. And now, do we have a look at Zach Rattray-Wyatt and think he's pulled a masterstroke out of this one? There will be 1 pit stop at least left for the whole field, by the way, after getting back onto these wet tires.
Yeah, you're absolutely spot on with that 1 pit stop, and it could be from here with 40 minutes to go. It could be just a splash and dash with the same wet tyres, because I can tell you the rain is not going away. We're not going to see dry running again once everybody's on slicks. This is the way they're going to settle for the end of the race. So when is the right time? And is the right time faster? Scotty, I think you're right. I think at 56, 57s, I think you still got another lap or two where you've got a 3-second advantage.
I mean, look, the reason I'm chuckling is about to become evident when it will cross your screen at the top, but effectively, car 85, Dan Yeaman, and car 151, Stefan McCartan, have both been handed 5-second penalties for both of their discretions. So they're back to where they were before, and it's play on, but one of them pit. So there's McCartan's penalty, and it'll be very, very quickly followed by car 85 gets 5 seconds as well. So they both got 5 seconds for that one. I'm gonna be honest with you. McCartan's was a slam dunk penalty. Yeaman's is one of those ones where it depends upon the conditions, and for me, it's an incident. If it happened in the dry, yep, it's a penalty. If it happens in the wet, yeah, it depends on who's the umpire. And we didn't. The shot we got doesn't tell a lot of the story. It's the greasiness in the conditions. So it is what it is. They'll both take the slap on the wrist. Everybody else is in for wet tires now. So that changes the script.
Well, those two teams are going to have a little bit of fun before and after this race, aren't they, Scotty? So I'm not sure how much they love each other already, but when we race at this level in iRacing, we know that we often come across the same teams then again, and we got race the same people. So to be honest, we're all doing this sport because we love it, boys. And yeah, the competition's great and all that sort of fun, but it's not to the level where you need to hate someone. Just enjoy the sport. It's good. It's great. It's fun.
Roman Kurt Chapman's continuing. He's still on a dry tyre too. That level of spray is definitely indicative of issues trying to get that tyre up to temperature. I was just taking a quick look. None of those guys that came in actually got a penalty as well, which is really, really interesting. And all the guys who stayed on the dry tyres for 1 extra lap have actually made a gain relative. Just watching a little bit of a moment for Stuart Ellis as well. So the guys that crossed over, which is the One Performance Racing stable, might have gone 1 lap too early. They are trying to bring their tyres up to temperature. The problem is we don't 100% know at the moment whether or not they did come 1 lap too early, because we won't know until probably the end of next lap, once everything's sort of normalised, will be the problem, because the wet tyres, and you can see these guys crawling around on a lack of grip at the moment. But one of the battles that was definitely being watched was Yeaman versus McCartan, and that is McCartan back down the inside. And that one lines itself back up again. So those two will have each other to duel with to the end of the race. But as for Andrew Scordilis, he's dropped in behind Lachlan Capel. Now, Scordilis did come down in that safety car period. This is the replay of the move on Yeaman. There was a little bit more room between these two guys this time by. Not by much.
Great racing. Lots of side-by-side stuff, Scotty. I like it. I don't mind a little bit of side-by-side bump and grind. But anyway, we'll see how it turns out in the press in the long run. I'm just watching all the time, Scotty. We are back now to to 201s up at the front. So so that's certainly back into wet tyre territory. Yeah, nobody should be on slicks. Kurt Chapman's still out there on slicks by my record. The last bastion to come in.
There we go. Well, everyone's abandoned the slick side now. Did he pull it up on his way to the pit lane?
Oh,
Yes,
hopefully he didn't get a black flag out of that. Oh, he got away with it.
Okay.
That's
Yep.
good. Yep.
But just pulling it up for the pit lanes, the challenging aspects to the point. Actually, I'm just going to go back and have a look at Kurt Chapman's most recent lap times. I was very, very curious whether he was still able. So, you know what? He still ran a 2-minute flat, 0.5, the lap before when he pit, when everyone else had already come in. So the speed was still there on the tyre. It was just difficult to extract. So you still could have gone a little bit further before you came in for wet tyres. Right. We have got ourselves Zach Rattray-White in the lead by 2.5 seconds from Dean Mackay-Blake, Trent Allen. Lachlan Capel's the first of the guys who have made pit stops since the safety car. So he will have less fuel to add at this next stop. And that could see another reshuffling of the order as well. But first and foremost, you've got to survive through this section of rain. And as we've already documented, conditions are only going to worsen.
Yeah, Scotty, we're 1 lap away from being able to refuel and get to the end of the race. And that's based on the 19 laps that we saw earlier in dry conditions. You and I both know you use a little bit less fuel, not a lot, but a little bit less fuel in the wet conditions, but your lap time's down. It's a lot slower. So 19 laps at 2 minutes. We've got so what's that, 38 minutes. In fact, for 19 laps, we're already in it. For 18 laps, I think we've just crossed over that point now, and for 17 laps, which was my original estimate, we're about to cross over that at the end of the next lap. So right at that period where you could try and get there if you know your fuel numbers well, but yeah, another lap, and you know, every pit we see, we're going to see safe to the end.
Worthwhile pointing out the last 7 or 8 laps. Actually, I'll go through and find. I think Capel ran was probably the fastest lap of that little stint, and he ran a 52.466 on lap 36. We've just finished lap 42, so 6 laps later, we just run a 2-minute 1.2. So that lap time fell off 9 seconds in 6 laps with a pit stop in the middle. Is what the conditions are like at the moment, and as far as we're aware, it is going to continue to worsen from here. So Capel was half a second slower than Rattray-White on that lap, so that margin's opening. I don't think those wet tyres are completely up to temperature as yet. Seems something I think is about to come to a stall. Dillis is about to be in trouble from Sam Sutton, and this might be a little bit of a reason why that is curb on the left-hand side. And that was risk-taking from Andrew Dillis on the run to turn 1.
Yeah, massive risk. This track is getting wetter and wetter, Scotty, and there's a lot of, on the edges of this track, there's a lot of standing water, and as more rain comes down, the racing line gets very, very slick. So expect to see, when we get really wet, off apex around the corners for people to maximise their traction and get off. But anybody who comes near the edges of the track, we're going to see what just happened to Andrew Dillis, without a doubt, because these puddles are only going to get bigger.
So worthwhile pointing out, we have a mix of cars. At the moment, I'm just going to walk through a couple of strategies and the positions they're all on. Zach Rattray-White pit 10 laps ago to put wet tyres on under the safety car. He's got himself about 7-8 laps worth of fuel left at this point in time. So he will have to come in to get more fuel to run through to the end of the race. He's looking for about 10 laps worth of fuel. Trent Allen's actually going to dive in the pit lane at this point in time. So this is also going to give us a little bit of that. The reason this is critical for Trent Allen is you can get home from pitting right now. Anyone who pits from right now can get to the end. Trent Allen pit previously 11 laps ago. So he's now back in a pit lane and cancels that one out and can run to the end. He had a fair whack of fuel to add. Rattray-White, you can see he's run 11 laps in the current stint. Mackay 12, Neck 12, Capel's 3. There was 9 laps fuel distance in difference between these guys. And that is probably going to equate to about somewhere about that 9 to 10 seconds worth of a pit stop as well. So that is also the differential between those guys. So realistically, if Capel's 10 seconds back off the lead, he doesn't lead. And I tell you what, at the moment, he's about 2 seconds off of that window. So everything is really, really close with whether or not it was worth putting tyres on under that safety car. It is, and ladies and gents watching along at home, we can't tell exactly how that's going to play out. We can sort of guess and gesture and you know, that's what we're here to do. But realistically, we're not going to get a solid picture of this race for another 8 laps yet.
No, but Scotty, yeah,
it's longer than that.
No, it's a little bit longer than that, because I think I think Lockie can go almost up to about 5 to 10 minutes to go, and do it fairly much a splash and dash to get the end.
Gets the inside of Scordilis, and he completes that pass. That is 5th place on the racetrack too.
So a little bit of a bump and grind as they go up into the hairpin. Scotty, the one thing I'm noticing though is a 1.5 second lap time difference between Rattray White, Mackay Neck and Lockie Capel, Sam Sutton. So the guys out the front that have got less fuel are also about 1.4, 1.5 seconds a lap quicker right now. And if this battle between Scordilis and Capel keeps up, then that advantage that Lockie Capel has from that pit stop, Scordilis is going to eat that up on him.
Yeah, we'll just have to watch and wait at the moment. And this is the rear view mirror. Sorry, my apologies. It was Sam Sutton who got that job done. My apologies. Wrong car. I was talking about the wrong car. Sam Sutton who got down the inside of Andrew Scordilis and got that job done. So that's a little bit of a change in things. Capel's already 2.5 seconds down the road in a really, really good spot right now. But again, fuel mileage is very, very critical to this one, and the margin between Rattray White and Capel needs to be about that 7 to 10 second range. Because ahead of that, I believe Rattray White will come out ahead. But that is me, again, gesturing and thinking about things. I don't believe anyone else left in this race will take a set of tyres at their final stop, so it's not going to be worth it. You won't get those tyres up to temperature, will be the problem.
Yeah, and as you can see, Scotty, I think we'll see it on the broadcast now, you can see the tram tracks of the cars, which tells you how much water the track is gaining on it right now. So it's getting wet and wet.
Moisture being added to the racing surface. This is Dan Yeaman at the moment, who has gotten through on Stuart Ellis. Looks like Stuart Ellis might have had a moment at turn 3 and 4, I believe, on the current lap. So lost a fair chunk of time. That might be worthwhile keeping an eye out for. Oh, there is actually a car that's off at the moment. It's Adam Hughes, actually just ahead of these guys. You can see that's him just rejoining. And look at how much less visibility there is out there at the moment as well.
It's getting darker and darker, Scotty. You wouldn't want to be. Can we get in the cockpit and see what people are getting from the drivers? I'm not sure they're getting, blinded from spray yet. I think that stage is still yet to come. But yeah, not too bad with the wipers on. You wouldn't want to have a car without the wipers, but at least the wipers work on cars all across iRacing.
Really interesting, actually, is we started to lose a little bit of lap speed as well. Is that the number of laps to the left is actually dropping off again. McCartan's starting to come back. All of a sudden, I reckon OPR might have pit 1 lap too early, and they may have a splash of 1 lap to do. And that would put, definitely they pick the right lap in terms of the tyre crossover. Very even, very, very even. They've made a lot of gains, actually, since just with the warm and wet tyres and being able to get them on and get a little bit of temperature in them on that wet track that's getting more damp prior to that crossover window. So I think there's still another little bit to play out here. It might be the difference if 1 lap might actually be critical to the race. So again, we're not going to know that for another 12 laps or so from now. Remembering the pace difference, ladies and gents, is from the fastest laps of the day, 49.072 from Zach Rattray White, back to his current pace is a 2-minute flat. So he's 11 seconds slower currently. And Andrew Scordilis has just had a moment we're hearing as well. That was on the entry to turn 8. Sorry, turn 7. My apologies, turn 7. Braking on that slick line. Pete, you're back after talking to a few people.
Mate, you asked the question, I went to find out. Can OPR make it to the end of the race? Dead set no, they still have a splash to go. But their main focus is the man out front, Zach Roy, and they know he's got a big pit stop to go. So that's where we're at.
Yeah, so it's a little bit of thinking about fuel, just positioning the cars. I wonder whether or not Capel's actually pressing on, and Sutton might be saving fuel at the moment as well, which could be, in theory, relevant to this race, because Capel can't make it. It's going to be a challenge. You know the Mustang, I was just looking backwards at that Mustang, and that spray, is it just me or does it look like a Bentley?
The Mustang? I think that's you, Scotty. There's
No,
absolutely no Bentley about that at all.
Are you sure? Have a look through the spray and the gloom. Like, I'm talking through the gloom.
Oh, all right. When you put a massive bit of fog and you can't actually see the lines of the car,
that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's got the fat shape of a Bentley's back end. I was going to say another word, but that's about as close as I can get to it looking like a Bentley. But yeah, anyway, and the lights are distinctly Mustang, right?
It was actually a really, really interesting announcement as well. Well, it's not even so much an announcement as it is a discussion. Owen Coleman's had another issue, by the way, and I think he'll be done for the day, and he is stuck. And he's hard in the barriers, actually. That's him right there. We're just keeping an eye on him in the onboard shot. He is very hard in the barriers.
And permission to tow has been requested, Scotty. We may get a safety car. 25 minutes to go. There's no time reason why they wouldn't do a safety car.
And Brad Coates, I just heard say the same words at this point in time.
Okay, that'll be people assuming that safety car's about to be deployed. Right now, we're still on hold with race control. They're reviewing it.
Coates just coming in for a final stop. Zach Battery White's just going to dive in regardless. So he'll clear that final stop right now. And there'll be a few of them that do the same.
Now, Scotty, if you're questionable, you want a safety car, don't you?
Yeah, well, there's an issue here. There is a couple of strategy question marks that now pop over, and Capel's just gone through. And safety car has been deployed, so we'll condense the field.
That is advantage OPR, Scotty, without a doubt, because Lockie now gets the ability to save as much fuel as he can. He's still got to get around up and to the safety car, but taking the lead right now. He's got effectively the most of a lap to do, but behind the safety car 2 laps, it's going to take up a whole lot of time as well. Maybe that fuel question is out and about.
Yeah, I think the fuel question mark is now out and about just purely because of the difference between a green flag lap and a safety car lap. We're going to lose 2 laps under safety cars for sure here in the SUDSPEED Premier Endurance League Open Series.
The real question is, Scotty, if I go and ask her, will they tell me?
I'm going to say no. And very important to note, safety car does have wet tyres on Pete. By the way, I did actually witness a race just recently whereby the safety car had to go out on a slick tyre because of a bug where they couldn't get a wet tyre onto the car. So they did a great job. It was a guy, friend of SUDSPEED by the name of Dan Stevens, who did a phenomenal job around Sandown in, I believe it was the BMW M2, that just wouldn't accept wet tyres at that point in time. So I can tell you from a race control standpoint, it's very, very difficult to ensure you're prepared for these sorts of situations.
Well, my point to anybody who does safety car duties is your setup should be automatically on blocks, because it's not like you're racing the damn thing, right? So anyway, I'll be back.
And Pete is off to do some research on his strategy masters. At this point in time, as a bunch of people come in, the OPR cars are coming in, which means they were marginal on fuel. and they wouldn't have been able to get you know, I reckon they would have been able to make it home. But now the question mark becomes, how much time do we lose behind the safety car? And as a part of wave bys, that's Brad Coates that's just come out in the background. At McLaren, you can see racing on towards the group. He is actually a lap down. And we're hearing issues between Dean Mackay and Stefan McCartan on pit lane exit blend. And that'll be an interesting one just because of positioning. We're in the middle of that cell at the moment. It is thumping down heavy. And unfortunately, we just have to sit by and wait for everyone to come on through. So this is McCartan on his way out of pit lane. Yeah, I think he's ahead when they get to the blue cone. And the blue cone's generally what they use for the market reference marker. So McCartan will get that spot back once the safety car train has been caught. And have a look at the water level. Shout out to Jay behind the scenes as well. That's a new section of the graphic on the bottom right. You can see the water level on track growing as the session's gone on, compared to an hour ago. Didn't even know we had that available to us. That's a new one. Righto, as we settle in to the back end of this safety car, 20 minutes remain for the second to last round of a SUDSPEED limited series here for Premier Endurance League. SUDSPEED, of course, premium sim racing gloves for sim racers, made by sim racers. Shout out to Chris Ruddell and Richard that give us the SUDSPEED gloves. Most importantly, made by sim racers as well. Work those guys put into those gloves and testing. I was able to give them some feedback on an early product, first round of products. Of course, they've come out with their most recent versions as well, featuring new colors and designs, which are quite bright at this point in time. Also, shout out to Kibby Graphics and Sim Racing and Focus podcast as well. We're going to get ourselves a SUDSPEED safety car, allowing the opportunity for wave bys in the back end of this one. Pete's back from a walk up and down the pit lane.
Yeah, Scotty. And the real story is fuel is roll the dice question mark. So it's for those that didn't pit, they knew that they had a pit stop before the safety car, but now it's a roll the dice and see if we get there. That's how close it is. It's a massive story. Dean Mackay wasn't a fan, didn't really want the second safety car, said he got a great advantage out of the first one, but the second one didn't do much. But I'll tell you what it did do, it did some good favours for Blake. So that team's looking pretty good. And the AI double team boys, well, they're just trying to hang in for the rest of the race and set themselves up for a good result. So a good timely safety car for race purposes, Scotty, but I'm not sure that we know that everybody's still going to make it for another race. So there's still a couple of question marks out there.
Yeah, the challenge will be as well, these tyres are starting to lose a whole bunch of temperature. We can fire them back up here at the moment. Lachlan Capel, Sam Sutton, Dan Yeaman, 3 drivers on the podium, locked out by Orbit Drop Bear for now. Fuel question marks over the lot of them. Rattray White will be gold on fuel, as will Stefan McCartan. Both of those guys making pit stops under the safety car to get themselves to that critical marker. And the other problem will be how much temperature can they get into the tyres. You can see there's a lot of guys trying to put as much temperature in as they possibly can. I reckon we're in for a dicey restart here. Have a look at how glassy the surface of the racetrack is right here.
Yeah, Scotty, these are the conditions I was talking about at the start of the race. That the track it holds water on the racing line in these conditions. The more water it is, the slicker the racing line is. So we're going to see those go-kart lines come out, but also the puddles on the curbs, if you have a look as you go through the S's there, if we've got the right camera angle, the puddles on the curbs are getting bigger and bigger, and the inside curbs of this track holder. And also along the straights, there's just aquaplane puddles right in the middle of the straight. So it holds water in the strangest places, this track. So anyway, lots to go on. Look out for, if Lockie takes off early, look out for turn 14.
Turn 14 could be a major issue. Safety cars now pulled away from the field, which means the weaving must cease and tyre warming must cease, which they have all now done so. There is 16 minutes and 40 seconds on the clock. There is heavier rain on the way. We believe it might even be here at this point in time. In fact, the rain intensity is just spiking right now. I can tell you it's on the way up. It is gloomy. It is foggy. It nearly looks like there's a couple of Bentley GT3s, a couple of Bentley Continentals to throw back. Yeah, I'm going to say it, Pete, because it looks that way at the front end.
Hey, I want to see the in-car footage as the guys get going, because I tell you what, yeah. I think we're about that point where if you're fourth or fifth in this train, you're seeing nothing unless you're out of it.
Yeah, I'd agree with that as well. Safety cars in pit lane. Field is in the hands of car number 8, Lachlan Capel. Will lead the way. Serves as race control and assistance for the limited series here for Premier Endurance League as well. He's in that position in a number of different communities. Likes to assist with rules and setting those sorts of things up. Rattray White is looking for any advantage he can possibly get on the run out of the last corner, and he looked for a little bit of an overlap on Dan Yeaman. He's been forced to back out of that one, and now he's going to have Stephen McCartan going a long way around on him, who is able to get the grip on the outside of turn number 1. Who's been able to fight it? Rattray White's been rotated. McCartan's lost a rear wing as well. Bunch of cars involved as they've all just come together at turn 2. And the 3 teammates have just been allowed to just skip clear. And now Dean Mackay's managed to make his way through to 4th spot. Adam Hughes got to his inside. Big moment on the curb as everyone looks for every possible point to dodge the puddles around this incredibly wet racetrack. And the storms have set in over Motegi. And the storms are setting in inside the cockpits as well.
So here's the thing, Scotty. This is what I'm saying right now. You said the 3 teammates are cruising off into the distance right now. They're the 3 cars with question marks over fuel. If they're racing together and looking after each other, they can do what they can fuel save and make it to the end. So for this race to come alive, Dean Mackay, Adam Hughes, Stephen McCartan, those next 3 cars behind them, they've got to get right up behind them and put the pressure on and make those guys use more fuel than they've got. Then we're going to see some real fireworks in the last couple of laps of this race.
But this racetrack is glassy. Tyres have cooled off massively. After a little bit of safety car conditions, a battle on for the race lead. Lachlan Capel is starting to be challenged by Sam Sutton. Dan Yeaman's going to sit in the background and watch along as he watches his 2 teammates go for it. What is Mackay able to show? Sutton moves across the inside of the road, wants to get away from the slick line, wants to get alongside of Capel, cannot get there. And the biggest issue will be, in these conditions, don't nudge your teammates off. If they're all good on fuel, this could be 1, 2, 3. Contact, though, would bring that undone. And the margin that they did have to the rest of the chasing pack has come down a little bit as Mackay's been able to run a pretty good lap. Here comes the Ferrari. They're going to change position. McCartan will go back through. He has a 5-second penalty. You know who else has a 5-second penalty? Actually, is Dan Yeaman. So whilst they're 1, 2, 3 on the road, they won't finish this way currently. And there's been an additional penalty of 5 seconds as well for Dan Yeaman, because remember, he had contact with Scordelis earlier on. So he's actually got 10 seconds to this point.
All right, Scotty, here's a question for you. Sam Sutton in the championship is currently running P5, Lockie Capel P7. Does Lockie let Sam go for championship purposes as a team thing, or does he take it on himself?
David Woods isn't here tonight. He has a 100-point margin over Rattray White. Rattray White would be on target to move ahead of that, but not anymore. Dean Mackay as well. Think about him. Sits 3rd on the road in championship contention. This is a great opportunity for Motegi to pick up a bunch of points. We're sitting corrected third at the moment after penalties have been applied. What is the speed like? Last lap by was a 2:05, slowest lap we've seen so far tonight under green flag conditions. Means it is very difficult to keep scoring points. And this is the outside at turn 1 and the replay of the race start. Ratchway wide on the inside. I don't know if there was contact that unsettled him or it was just the transition over the rubber in line.
So, Scotty, I did have a look at that. There was a little bit of contact in mid-corner, but it wasn't the contact that created the car to turn. The car turned on its own with power oversteer. So I don't think there's any penalty to come from that. It was a driving error.
The conditions are continuing to degrade. With Stefan McCartan as well. Don't forget, he still has 5 seconds. That's Scordilis. That's unfortunately come unstuck. And I believe that's down the last couple of corners as well. Stefan McCartan's going to try and get up and alongside of Dean Motegi through turn 1. Very, very narrow. There is grip down there, but he's not going to carry any speed. As the car on the outside will carry speed, but he had to go much, much further around. This will flip-flop when they get down here to 3. Up and along the inside. And that'll be McCartan who goes the long way around. Was he given room? Yes.
Oh, just room. There was a tiny little touch on the exit there that I thought had the wrong drivers. That would have spun Stefan McCartan. Obviously, Stefan was good enough to hang on to the car on the ripple strip in the wet with the tiniest little bit of a touch from Dan. So, something from Dean. So that was great driving. Really, really enjoyable to watch that.
And that was Scordilis a fraction wide heading into the last complex. And I'll tell you what, McCartan is ranging up on these guys at a rapid rate of knots. Now, the guys at the lead and control of this race will be hoping to lose a lap with the pace fall off. But Stefan McCartan will be hoping that they get the extra lap at this point in time. This is Adam Hughes now trying to line up and have a crack at Dean Motegi, who is clearly struggling in the wetter conditions on board the TriStar Racing #1.
Yeah, 2:04, 2:05, Scotty. I think we've got 5 laps to go. Looking at that, 9 minutes 40, 2:04 laps. Yeah, so I'm saying 5 laps to go for the end of this race.
And Sutton is still trying to have an attack at the rear end of Capel for the race lead as well. Yeaman is starting to struggle and fall back a little bit. McCartan has made bucket loads of time to him currently. Those two battling for the race lead. Then comes Yeaman. Then comes McCartan, who has been able to make a whole boatload of pace. But McCartan is taking risks to do so. And the rain intensities continue to build to this point as well. Ratchway wide after dropping all the way to 15th, has driven back to 9th, looking to score points. And I can tell you there was a Ferrari over the last couple of corners who has been pointing at nearly the wrong direction to the racetrack. He's going to have a huge lunge at Dan Yeaman as we get down into this next corner. This is a little bit further back in the field. This battle pack is starting to close up. McCartan's not had a quick car in the dry. But now the Ferrari is starting to switch on and come alive in the wet. Dean Motegi is starting to track him back down a little bit as well.
I just come back and have a quick chat with Dean Motegi, Scotty. He's tracking those penalties, so he knows there's nothing stupid to be done. He doesn't need to risk anything with the 2 cars in front of him as long as he stays up there all the time. He does have Adam Hughes on his back though, so he's got to keep driving pretty hard.
Yeah, that'll be the problem, is trying to open it up, get the power down as well. Hughes has gone through on Dean Motegi. So another change of position there.
And that's interesting.
And Sam Sutton has managed to get the job done, so a change to the race lead now as well. Lachlan Capel made a little bit of a mistake and nearly makes another one. As the track continues to just get worse and worse and worse. Rain intensity's been building and building and building.
I've been saying turn 14, Scotty, all night. That's where Lockie Capel made that second mistake. It is such a tricky turn in the wet conditions. If you go too early, you hit the curb, you understeer off. If you go, if you try to go wide, it's really easy to understeer or oversteer and come on slow. It's really, really difficult corner, that turn 14 corner in these conditions.
I think the bigger one that we need to get back over is that graph of the water build up on the racetrack. That is going to tell us a much, much bigger. You can just see it. It dipped a little bit for a brief period of time, and then it just continued to come back. Although I think that actually might be the rain intensity, I believe. That's the rain intensity. It's actually not the water amount on the racetrack. So there was a small patch where it lightened off, and it's continuing to build. I think it'll stabilize from here on out. It is moderately wet from the sim at the moment, I'm seeing. But this is about as wet as it's going to get from here. The rain's not going to get any worse.
Yeah, the radar looks like it's going to one shade darker green, but to be honest, I don't think that's going to change the moderately wet or the track conditions enough to change the race from what it is now.
Dean Mackay's having a bit of a lob back at Adam Hughes as well. So those two, side by side, in the tricky changeable conditions, will chase each other all the way down here to the hairpin. And Mackay was past here on the last lap. Is he able to send that reply? Return of serve. He crossed him over in the mid-corner, trying to get the power down out the other side as Adam Hughes at this point in time. But Mackay was able to point the car off the corner. There was a hole that opened to the inside. And Mackay's been able to fill it. Now can he get on the anchors? Can he get this one done down the hill? Yeah, he can. No rubber on the right-hand side of the road. Has he overrun it? No. Manages to park it back up, steal that spot back. So a change of positions, 2 laps running for these two drivers, and then a touch wide as Mackay manages to save the car. They're pushing on. They're all taking risks. As Rattray White manages to get through at the last corner. Loses that spot back to Stuart Ellis.
I think it's going to be a case of what will be for Zach Rattray White having had that turn on the restart, but yeah, kind of like Brock Feeney today. But anyway, yeah, straight into it. There's plenty to go, Scotty. I still 4 minutes 46. So yeah, 3 more laps.
Oh, Stephen McCartan just made a huge mistake. Huge snap for the Ferrari, and now he's going to go tumbling down by the wayside. That's the battle for the race lead that we were watching at that point in time. McCartan was making gains, and then he lost them all again. He was 4th. Now that's back to Adam Hughes. Sutton will lead. He's led the bulk of the race. Capel pulled the trigger on him and stole the limelight for a little bit. For now, there's nothing between these two guys as well as they battle out for the race win. We're under 4 minutes on the clock, which means there'll be 2 more at the conclusion of this one. They're matching lap times, but is there enough gas in the tank?
I think that's the big question, Scotty. Is there enough gas in the tank? They probably don't have enough gas to fight each other, to be honest. So this might be a case of actually just making sure they look after each other to get home. And Lockie might have to just take one for the team there, given that Sam is in front in the championship, and gain him a few extra points, for the better of the final result.
Yeah, for now. Look at how glassy it is down at turn 1. That is tricky to pick your way through and place the car. You're doing it by knowledge of the track at that point in time. Sim racers lose the ability to do a track walk, but gain the ability to do as many laps as you feel like investing, as many laps as you have time for without the cost. There is so much that a track walk can tell you that laps cannot. And Andrew Scordilis is continuing to have issues, and it's in the last sector again. And battles on for that race lead because Lachlan Capel's now going for the crisscross. He'll be on the inside through the kink here at 6. But they'll both have to lift. He touches the curb. They get into each other, but it's just a little bit of door banging. Now he's going to be on the outside at 7. He touches the curb as Capel and arrests the car. He just barely got on the paint and was able to bring it back. 1.5 laps to go now. Running out.
Scotty, you and I both know what Lockie's like. He's going to be in the same Discord with Sam Sutton right now. You know, are they going to be loving each other?
That'll be a different question. That'll be one that was resolved after the race. If they both don't go off the racetrack, it won't be talked about.
If they got enough fuel to get there. 1 minute 43 to go, Scotty. So there's another lap to go after this one.
With how hard they're both pushing, I don't think there's any question marks left to us at this point in time. 2 hours for the SUDSPEED Open Series from Premier Endurance League from Mobility Resort Motegi. Rain played a factor yet again. Tyres, when were you to cross over and be on the right tyres at the right time? I reckon everyone missed it in the sake of safety. But for the final time, to the white flag, we will go. And then it'll be one more circuit from the racetrack. We've had wet racing for the last 2 weeks. Challenging conditions. The sheen on the surface tells it all. It reflects the story that these guys are putting in. They're both struggling for a little bit of traction. What will you do for a race win? In trying conditions, in challenging conditions, where's the grip on the final lap? You can't touch the slick stuff. Where the rubber's laid down, there's no traction there. Capel's going to touch a little bit of the curb in the middle of the corner. On the outside, as he looks for a little bit of traction, they'll both get back out there. First sector navigated. Now to the second. Sutton's built a little bit of breathing room, but Capel's going to make that all back up in the braking zone right there. This time last lap, they were side by side. Capel ran out of room on what was the usable section of the racetrack, which is incredibly narrow now. And he might not have enough opportunity to get back to where he needs to. Sutton is tracking along beautifully. Yeaman will cross the line in third, but he won't stay there after penalties. And Capel's just not able to quite get the power down in the final lap of the race. 2 more overtaking opportunities, then it's single file through the last couple of corners, and Sam Sutton is far enough ahead. No chugging. They've not been saving fuel, I think, for the last couple of laps, which says to me they're all A-OK. And there's no way you'll make a dive bomb from there. So Sam Sutton is going to do it from Mobility Resorts Motegi. Hughes will be just a little bit further back, but he will snag corrected P3. But for the final time, under the bridge. Through the ice that is the last couple of corners into the line. Orbit drop bears. Sam Sutton will do it from Motegi.
There we go. If it wasn't for penalties, Scotty, that's an orbit drop there, 1, 2, 3. But obviously Dan Yeaman's going to drop down, what is it, five spots or so. Given that safety car's really going to hurt him, given he's carried 2 5-second penalties. Adam Hughes coming across in P3 after penalties. Dean Mackay P4, Stephen McCartan P5.
Don't forget McCartan with penalties as well to come. So there still might be a few to change up.
Yeah, the interval from McCartan to Blackneck is 6.4 seconds, so Stefan should be pretty safe in that effective P5. 1, 2, 3, and I think puts Dean Yeaman into P8.
Yeah, that's going to be tight, actually. I think Yeaman's got 10 seconds worth of penalties coming his way, and he will be 0.3 of a second ahead, I think, of Blackneck. So I believe it will be McCartan from Dan Yeaman in 6th and 7th post corrected penalties, and that's by us madly typing away to calculator, so trust that as much as you dare. It's going to be, yeah, Sam Sutton takes the win from Lachlan Capel from Dan Yeaman. Yeaman will drop back to, we believe, what will be 6th spot. Adam Hughes gets promoted to the podium from Dean Mackay. Then it should be Stephen McCartan in 5th from Dan Yeaman in 6th. Blake Neck 7th. Ellis, Rattray White, Trent Allen, to round out your 10. There is a couple extra penalties in that one to be aware of as well. Actually, there's only been 4 penalties handed out tonight. Dan Yeaman picks up 2, Stephen McCartan 1, and Kurt Chapman actually the other. Outside of the top 10, Mark Foster will bring the DMT car and will be the first of the DMT cars home. And the only DMT car actually to get the line. So Fozzie wins for that team 2 weeks in a row. Angus Lawford from Scordillis, who had a troubled back end of the race for Scordillis. Ben Jeffrey, Kurt Chapman will pick up a 5-second penalty, was the other one of those drivers. Brad Coates, the last car on the lead lap. The rest of them retirements might be scoring points. 75% race distance tonight will be approximately 44, 45 laps, which means Coleman, I don't think, will necessarily score points. Terry Marsh, Andrew Dutch, and Alex Cattle will not, to round out the 20. And there was 20 cars took part here tonight. That is the final results after 2 hours from Motegi. And one that sounds like it's not a overly loved track. I can tell you Fuji, where we're off to next, generally seen as one of the more popular tracks as well. And that will be next weekend for the final championship round for the SUDSPEED Open Series for Premier Endurance League, as we're waiting on drivers to come through for their podium interviews. And then the very next weekend after that one, we will sign, seal, and deliver the season for Premier Endurance League, as the limited series will return for their final race of the season, also from Fuji, and update on the racetrack as well. 2 options available to us from Fuji. We will be using the one with the chicane at the end of the back straight, so not a fast and flowing final sector. We have got tonight's driver after penalties who moves corrected P3. Adam Hughes, mate, like a duck to water, like a Mustang to water, and how full are the galoshes?
They are spewing out. Let me tell you that much. I can give that for free.
Mate, only P3 tonight, but is it water you're drinking, or is it beer out of the shoe? I think.
It's gonna be water than a hot shower straight after. Let me tell you, Jesus Christ.
Challenging level on that one, because obviously a lot of people elected to start on that wet tire. I think definitely at the race start for probably about 5 laps it was wet tire, but it was very, very quickly, and then everyone was sort of, what do we do? And everyone sort of wanted to sit around, and nobody wanted to be the first guy to make that choice. And then, well, one guy did it and went brilliantly quick, and then everyone was in there very shortly thereafter.
Yeah, it was. I think it was 5, 10, 15 laps in, and then obviously that dry line formed, and we saw one person do it, and then obviously it come over the sim that it's now a dry track or a dry state. So we all thought, oh, well, in for dries and see what happens. It was just a matter of holding on till we actually got to the wet segment again, which was obviously another stint and a bit after the fact. So, it was just a matter of just biting your tongue and just waiting and waiting and waiting, really, and just try and time it perfectly, more or less.
Hey, Hughesy, sorry, you seem to be super quick on your early laps out of pit stops and early laps after a safety car. Is that something specifically you have set up in the car?
No, I think that's just more of a wobbler effect, I think. So to be quite honest with you, I'm P nowhere or P Narnia for qualifying for some reason. I don't know why, but come race, I seem to be okay. I seem to be there or thereabouts. So your guess is as good as mine. I genuinely don't know what I'm doing right or wrong at this point. So I'm just sort of going with the flow. And if it works, it works. It doesn't, well, then back to the drawing board, I guess.
Well, okay.
Mate, finally, opportunity to say thank you and a shout out, because that one was a challenge. A little bit of help from the teammates tonight, obviously just lifting and leading people through. I think you and Stefan exchanged positions a couple times at different points. So obviously the team working quite well together at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. We, I know Steph had a lot more pace than I did, so shout out to him. He probably should have been first, second, third, for sure, because he had just roaring pace in the wet. So I was hoping to be a dry race. I didn't know it was going to be a wet race till literally probably an hour or two prior to the race start, because I thought it was just dry, so I was just doing dry running the whole time. And someone said, "No, it's going to be wet." I went, "Oh, okay then." So obviously just a shout out to you guys for coming in for the last 5 rounds, and obviously the next round's at Fuji. I think it's the 6th round, so thanks to you guys and race control. Obviously to Stefan, Stewie, Andy, and massive shout out to Trotty as well for being our inside man, and obviously shout out to simrigs.com, Palmerston Bakery, Disiraction, Sim Supply, DSM Painting and Decorating, and Ground to Earth Coffee. Just thanks those guys for helping us out and coming on board, and hopefully this has made up for my last race's stupidity.
Absolutely. Gold.
Mate, is it the coffee, the sponsor, that's gotten you a little bit more focus?
I think maybe just having a bit of coffee in the fuel tank and topping the fuel tank up the right amount may have helped a little bit. Not gonna lie.
Mate, congratulations and enjoy, brother. It was good to meet up with you early in the year. So good to finally see you get some good results at the back end of this one.
Yeah, it's overdue. Cheers, boys. Likewise, thank you for that.
Cheers, Izzy.
Cheers, thank you.
Right, we'll take one step further forward, and we're going to be chatting to driver the number 8 and Lachlan Capel, mate, from Evolution Racing Team. That was a poorly painted Evolution Racing Team colour. Purple goes quite well on an ERT car, brother.
Yeah, well, it's yellow, which is what I was running previously. But yeah, I have from this point moved. Good to have a good result in the first run out. Yeah, I'm moving GT so far, and then V8s will happen after Pro Series. I had a chat to Brenton, and he was very, very nice about it, and I appreciate everything Brenton's done for me. In the past nearly 2 years, I think I've been there. So I'll be doing the final round of Pro Series with them, but everything else I've moved on, and Brenton might be watching, so hello. And I have hidden everything, so don't worry. But yeah, other than if we move on from that, when we're looking at tonight, came in not really wanting to do it because I wanted to study for my exam tomorrow, but quite happy with how that ended up. I didn't think I'd have any pace in the wet, so found something.
Mate, good start, obviously, for moving across to a new team and a new set of colours, and confidence obviously comes with a little bit of a trickiness, obviously, in the transition period at the moment, which is what we're hearing from you. Obviously, the comments that for fans watching along at home, that's commenting the difference between teams' data and keeping all of that hidden. It's very, very important for all the teams to maintain the separatedness to ensure that everyone's looked after technically. Right, challenging point tonight from Motegi. Obviously, the crossover periods on all the tyres, everyone didn't look like they wanted to be the first guys to jump across, and I think the risk that we were chatting about at length was how quickly the wet's coming in, and more importantly than that was actually to do with how slow it was to transition and the strategy. It was tricky times. The problem was if you jumped onto a slick tire and it didn't come to you quickly, your strategy was out the window.
Yeah, with the strategy going out the window, we played it smart, I think. I was hoping that the rain would come quick enough in the middle stint where I could just stay on wets. But the switch to dries needed to happen. You saw OPR take the strat quite early, which I think worked out for them in the end, but the fuel offset I think definitely hurt them towards the end of the race when the rain came back on. And then when the rain came back, it was quite large and it was quite heavy. So it worked out quite nicely with us staying on the dries, then going to slicks, staying on the dries, then going to wets later, because of the fact that we had fresher tires than everyone else in the field, and it seemed to hold on quite nicely for that last little stint.
Mate, finally, who would you like to give a thank you and a shout out to for getting this one done for you here tonight?
Well, I think this goes without saying, but once again, Brenton, thank you for everything you've done for me in the last 2-3 years at ERT. I've loved every minute of it, and I'm going to love my final laps in my favourite coloured car in Adelaide at December 17. But appreciate Drop Bear for picking me back up from 3-4 years ago. They've made large strides in the GT and GTP world, so thought I'd try and sort of mix the cars around a little bit and see where I could get back with the cars that I started on iRacing. And a big shout out to all Drop Bear sponsors of Nkosi, Revolution Race Gear, and all of the iLiveries as well. big sponsor for Drop Bear, and all of the other ones that help make this team possible, as well as Sam for not getting angry at me too much tonight, and Dan for racing alongside us both.
Hey, congratulations on P2. Glad that you get the result. And mate, good luck with the exam tomorrow.
Thank you. Public law, not looking forward to it. Statutory interpretation's not very nice on how they want me to word it, but we'll see how I go.
Lockie, I didn't do it. Good luck. Good luck, mate.
That helped. That helped so much.
Good luck.
Righto. And finally, we're going to get an opportunity to chat to tonight's race winner, a man who was sitting on Discord a bit over a week ago, talking the entirety of the Orbit Drop Bear stable through what it's like to drive and manufacture and work on a tank. Sam Sutton, that thing drove probably just as good as a tank tonight in terms of its maneuverability at the back end of the race. That looked tricky.
Yeah, we had a really good car tonight. Was kind of surprised to put it on pole, to be honest. Didn't expect that, but yeah, it worked really well in the intermediate conditions, and then when it became a swimming pool out there, it held on enough. If it had been, had enough pace in the dry as well to sort of had our own. Bit upset about that first safety car. Had a nice 10-second gap. Would have liked to have kept that, but yeah, had to work there at the end there with Lockie just to not put each other in the fence, and came away with a 1-2 overall and finished in order on the track there. So that was pretty good.
Challenging night, obviously, in the conditions, but also challenging to stay off of each other and as teammates managing that relationship as Lockie walks back into the fold. That last run of the flag looks like that was not only challenging, it was risk, a lot of risk and risk management at the back end of the race. That was challenging to say the least.
Yeah, there was one lob from Lockie sort of when we just went back to wets when he was defending. He got up the inside, left into space. I kept that in the back pocket, and we sort of felt like I was stronger in the middle sector as we got to the after that second safety car. Turned out it was just the car in front was slower no matter what, because as soon as I got past him, it was the same again. So it was just a matter of finding the right traction control setting to get the drive out and managing that. He had one sort of over-under out of turn 5. Bit risky, nearly ended up in the fence. But ultimately, hopefully your teammates are going to put you in the fence. So ultimately not a bad day.
Mate, congratulations on the race result here tonight. Who would you like to give a thank you and a shout out to?
Just give thanks to iLiveries, Revolution Race Gear, and all the boys at ODBM.
Mate, we'll see you again in next weekend's time for a run around Fuji. So not a lot of time to turn the car around and get ready. Good thing it's only not too far over and we stay in the same nation.
Yeah, looking forward to Fuji. Hopefully we have another strong car there and hopefully get another podium.
Looks like it's sunny next week too.
Oh, that'd be great.
Well, we are off to Fuji next weekend for the SUDSPEED Open Series Championship finale. Standings will change. Series leader Damon Woods not here tonight. His closest rival, 100 points further back, was Zach Rattray White able to grab enough points to overhaul that one. What does the championship picture look like heading into Fuji and the final round? Dean Mackay did pick up points here tonight, but not a whole bunch of them. Rattray White clambered his way back through to 9th, so there will be a challenge on for the title. What does the best of the rest look like for everyone else and the points that they're trying to score? Sam Sutton takes race victory from a wet and challenging Motegi. Will the sun shine when we get to Fuji? Will it be more overcast conditions? Will the heavens open? The SUDSPEED GT3 Open Championship returns next Sunday night from Fuji.